Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. And we are broadcasting live from La Belle Provence in Montreal. Montreal this week for the next couple of days. Or, well, I suppose for tomorrow, and then we're going home.
An interesting hotel. We're broadcasting in the dark to hopefully have our son get to bed early. Well, on time, I guess. Anyway, so it's our mobile's setup. It's not even a mobile studio, but it's a mobile setup, and hopefully
this sounds all right.
Yeah.
We noticed yesterday in the video that we did, the sound was really bouncing off the walls in here. Unfortunately, there's not too much we can do about that. So the sound may not be as good as when we're at home, but hopefully it's still acceptable.
Yeah, so let us know what you think about that. There's not going to be much that we can do about it.
Unfortunately, we're also using the mobile mics, which hopefully they don't cut out on us. If you notice that the sound goes dead, please let us know. We do have some backup cables that we can hook up to them, but yeah, hopefully everything runs smoothly. Knock on wood.
Looks like sound is okay, so that's great. All right, so we're not going to waste a lot of time before we get into the festivities of this evening. So first off, house rules.
House rules, same as always. Please respect each other and the platform. No soliciting, selling, or spamming the chat. And please do not use profanity. We try to keep it clean around here, especially because our son is in the room. And tonight is a special weeknight live stream. Since we expect it to last for at least 3 hours, in the interest of time, we will only be able to address and respond to super chats. If you do have general comments or questions, please feel free to bounce them off of Barnaby or Jester. They are both very knowledgeable about politics. And if you want, you can save your questions for Sunday. We will be home on Sunday, so you can ask us then. And we'll try to address any questions that we can on Sunday.
And let's get to some pre-stream activity that went on. Goko Donnie jumping in with a total of 40 Northern Perspective gifted memberships.
Thank you very much.
So generous. Thank you so much. Longtime supporter. Thank you very, very much. Jason Dale, Joanne Maltman, Captain Mark, and Trevor Mann all coming on to NP supporter as members. Thank you very much. And Goko Donnie jumping in with a $2 super chat. Good evening, NP family. Hope you're still sticking around, Goko Donnie. Robert says, welcome to the party with a $2 super chat. Hi, everybody! My best Dr. Nick voice. And
unfortunately, we don't actually have the memes. We thought we grabbed them off our main computer before we left the house, and I guess
there's a lot of configuration to do.
So unfortunately, we don't have the memes tonight. Sorry, guys.
And Flying Panda with a $5 super chat. Never thought I'd be planning my evening around a government committee hearing, but here we are. Never thought we'd be providing color commentary on committee meetings, but here we are. Deep Soul Diving with a member comment, second round for 5 months. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining us. And Just Me Nicole with a member comment. Good evening, everyone. Hit the like. Absolutely. Let's get that up. We're already 300 behind, despite us getting a 200 like head start. So please ring that doorbell on your way in. XP or Easy Peasy with a $5 super chat. You guys should look into the state of the Canadian military. Soldiers would really appreciate you looking into it. Well, we plan on getting into definitely some other issues that are going on if we can actually get some more time on our hands. So stay tuned for that. But the military does deserve additional attention.
Well, and summertime is usually, like, nothing's going on in the house, everything's closed down, so summertime, fortunately, we're usually able to get to topics like that, so hopefully that's something we can dive into this summer.
And we do have some military personnel as viewers and members, so if we do have time to get into that, please stay tuned for a roll call for that, because we would like to sit down and talk with some of you about it. Go Donnie with a $2 super chat. Team Canada is assembled and about to start. Absolutely. It's like the beginning of a 1980 superhero television show. It's great. Mike St. Jean with a member comment for 5 months. When Trump becomes president, can the USA invade Canada and forcibly remove Trudeau from Parliament? Would be nice. Technically, yes. Tamara Witten coming back to NP supporter. Welcome back. And Casper H in the house. Good to see you with 10 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much. Excellent.
And we also have, let me see here, where'd it go? Alice Avonlea gifting 5 Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
And we have a $5 super chat from Irish Mist. It says, "My dearest darlings, Cypher and Fox, y'all need to get some merch up in here so MP fam can recognize each other whilst out and about."
So we, we've heard the requests for merch. It's on our list. We will provide an update when we get closer to that, and that's about all we can say at this point. So sit tight. Anyhow, I think we're about ready to get started in this. So let's just make sure that we're going to be getting ready to go here, and I just need to do one thing there, and that's perfect. Okay, so without further ado, let's all get comfortable. Here we go. And we have the appropriate avatars. Since I've already received the warning about my glasses, so don't want to cause any damage to the hotel we're in, and then having to pay that on the way out. So without any further ado, let's get started.
Welcome to meeting number 127, House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, widely known as the Mighty OGO. I'd like to welcome back Mr. Doan. Before we start, I wish to go over a few things. We've agreed to some accommodation measures for our witness today. Mr. Doan will be making an opening statement. We're going to do a 5-minute break after the first round, a 5-minute break after the second round. After the third round, which will take us about halfway through, give or take, we'll provide a 10-minute break. And then after the round after that will be a 5-minute break. Mr. Doan, obviously, is appearing by video conference. He's accompanied by his counsel, and we will allow suspensions or breaks for Mr. Doan to refer to his counsel, at which time we will suspend the clock so you don't miss out on your questioning. Mr. Doan is aware that his counsel, though, has to remain off camera at all times. If any time Mr. Doan's health does not permit him to continue his testimony, the meeting could be suspended or adjourned, provided Mr. Doan accepts that he will be required to reattend to complete the testimony in the future. Just on a different point, colleagues, I'd like to remind members that as with any testimony and documentation received by any parliamentary committee of this House, the proceedings today are covered by parliamentary privilege, which means that they cannot be used against any of us, including the witness, in a court of law in this country. This allows us to proceed to our inquiry with complete freedom. I refer members to the House of Commons Standing Procedure and Practice, 3rd edition, aka Boss Gagnon, aka the Green Book, page 89 to 95 for your reference. Mr. Doan, again, welcome back. We'll start with your opening statement. Go ahead, sir.
Point of order, Chair.
Yep. I have two, but sorry, Mr. Doan. I'll get you action just in 2 seconds. Before we get to the first point of order, and then Ms. Vignola, normally we're quite a bit liberal with watching the clock. Today, I am going to keep everyone to exactly to 5 minutes or 6 minutes, so leave time for an answer. I will be cutting everyone off exactly at that time. Mr. Brock?
Okay, so before we get to the point of orders, which I've already started, as everybody can see, Mr. Doan is getting the Christian First treatment. So he had requested accommodation for his testimony. He is still on his medical leave of absence, his stress leave, and almost exactly like Mr. Firth, he has been advised to try to avoid stressful situations, and significant stress can cause him harm, this sort of thing. So that's why he is appearing remote, and that's why they're talking about breaks, because they're going to give him a break now and then. Now, I have been able to download this and cut all the breaks out. I've also removed some irrelevant Liberal testimony that I took a sneak peek at. I have not heard any of the Conservative testimony or the Bloc testimony or the NDP, which all has been relevant in the past, so that's all still in. But rather than this committee meeting going roughly 3.5 hours, it is now down to around 2. So there you go. So hopefully that is going to make this a little easier. So I think that's everything.
And we're over 400 likes behind, so please give us a thumbs up if you can.
And we have Karen Fontaine with a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. And Just Me Nicole with a $10 super chat for an ice cream for your little man. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That child could eat his weight in ice cream.
And Brenda Weeb with a $7 super chat. I watched Mr. Barrett's video on this, sent it to my son who is studying this at SFU. Answering my question, is he lying? Emails 100%, files 99.9%. I guess we will see. All right, let's get back to it.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As I indicated to the last time that this witness appeared at committee last fall, that given the contentious nature of the evidence, that it would be prudent to have the witness sworn to tell the truth, and I'll be making that request again today.
I was expecting that. I think Mr. Doan was probably expecting that as well. If we're fine, we'll turn it over to the clerk for that. And then we'll get to Mrs. Vignola, but let me just attend to this first, Mrs. Vignola. Sir?
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
No, sorry, I'm going to turn over to the clerk to just swear in the witness, then I'll get to you, Mrs. Vignola. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Doan, with a hand on the religious text of your choice, well, you have two options. You can perform serment, an oath, or you can choose to make a solemn affirmation. What would you like to choose?
I'll do a solemn affirmation.
Solemn affirmation. So please repeat after me. I, Minh Doan, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly affirm and declare the taking of any oath is according to my religious belief unlawful.
I, Minh Doan, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly affirm and declare the taking of any oath according to my religious belief unlawful.
And I do also solemnly, sincerely, and truly affirm and declare that the evidence I shall give on this examination shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
And I do also solemnly and sincerely and truly affirm and declare that the evidence I shall give on this examination shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Doan. Mrs. Vignola?
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure that sound tests were done in compliance with our regulations for the well-being of our interpreters.
Say we're done.
Okay, so a couple things there. Interesting that they swore Minh Doan in, though not surprising.
Again, that was the second time, because the first time, he was the first one they swore in.
Correct. And they swore him in again, not surprising, because they obviously don't trust him. And second of all, if you're wondering about Mrs. Vignola, you'll notice that she's buzzed her hair down. We were initially concerned.
For her health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually looked into that, and it turns out she is completely fine. So if anyone's worried about her health, she's completely
okay.
fine.
Yep.
She actually did it in support of one of her close friends who was actually battling cancer. So, you know, my respect level for Vignola just went up another 10 notches, and it was already really high based on the work that she's done on this file. So, shout out to MP Vignola. You are a class act, despite being a member of the bloc. So, there you go. Irish Miss with a $2 super chat. Who is Randy?
We don't know. Okay, I keep seeing this all over social media today, like Reddit and YouTube, and we didn't get to watch question period today, and we haven't seen this yet in its entirety. Like Cypher kind of screened it quickly, but we haven't seen it in its entirety. So if it was in question period or in this, we have no idea.
No, I'm assuming this is in relation to Randy Boissonneau when he was being grilled in his own committee about his involvement in his company and all of this, and there was text messages, and he said, "Oh, that's not me, Randy. That's another Randy." It was so bad. His
Are
attempt
you
to,
serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what I'm guessing that what that's referring to. So thank you very much for that. And Karen Fontaine with a $5 super chat. Oops, I'm new at super chats, but I love you too. But I love you too much from Red Deer, Alberta.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. And Goko Dani with another 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much. And Ravisayes with a $5 super chat. I, Minh Doan, solemnly swear to tell the truth, sworn on his pile of emails. And Mr. Peachy with a $5 super chat. Showing some support. Hit the like button. Excellent. Thank you very much. And yes, we are about 400 behind. Humble Track with a $10 super chat. Great to see you. No special quotes. Enjoy your road trip and keep up the great work. Well,
Thank you.
That's a good enough quote for me. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get back to it.
Mr. Jones, sorry for the interruption. Please proceed with your opening statement.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and honorable members of the committee. Like most Canadians, I would prefer to not make my health issues public. However, as a result of some comments made in this committee, this is no longer possible. In 2015, I had a heart attack, was rushed to the hospital, underwent emergency surgery, and had 2 stents installed. I have had attacks of angina since. Stress has direct and life-threatening ramifications for me, and I have been on medical leave since January of this year, and I'm still currently on medical leave. There is nothing convenient about heart disease. I'm here today against my doctor's advice to avoid stress because I want to set the record straight on some points. Before speaking to the specific issues, I want to thank the committee for the accommodations it has extended to me, including delaying my appearance and for my appearance today. First, my involvement in the ArriveSCAM development. As CIO, my role is to provide strategic IT direction. My role was not to determine specifically how a program was to be delivered at an operational level. Once I made a strategic decision, responsibility for the technical implementation was delegated to a senior executive at the EST level to get the job done. Who chose GC strategies continues to be asked. The problem with this question is there are 2 questions and 2 answers, not one. I've already made clear at my last appearance that I picked a strategic direction to use in-house resources with staff augmentation. I'm accountable for that decision, and I stand behind it. However, I did not decide on a company. When I was presented with the 2 options, the staff augmentation proposal contained only technical information and did not include any information regarding GC strategies. They were never mentioned, nor did I make any decision to specifically engage them. This leads me to the other important question that isn't being asked. Who brought GC strategies on board? How are they even aware of CBSA's urgent need for an app? Who asked them?
I'm sorry. Okay, so I had intended on letting him complete his opening statement before I interrupted. But he's saying, that leads me to my second question that isn't being asked. Who brought GC strategies on board? Okay, now you're playing with semantics here. The question of who chose GC strategies and who brought GC strategies on board is the same thing. So he is trying to absolve himself from responsibility by saying, oh, well, you know, a proposal was brought to me, but it was only staff augmentation. So what he's saying is, as the CIO, he was brought essentially a plan, and the plan, he's saying, didn't include any vendors. All it included was basically, we're going to use internal staff and we're going to use a third-party staffing vendor to go and get us additional staff in order to give us the resources we need in order to build the app. That's what he's saying. And he's saying his other option was a complete outsource to a third party, meaning they would go to a company like Deloitte, hand it all over, and then Deloitte would build it. That's basically what he's saying, and he chose option 1. So I don't buy that. If you're a CIO and you have this really important project drop on your plate, you need to build this app and you need to build it quickly. You're going to then go to your guys and say, okay, put together some proposals and bring them to me. And then they bring them to you. And then you say, well, I want the staffing augmentation one. Then you're going to say, what organization are you going to use? How much is it going to cost? As a CIO, your main priority is deliverables and budget. So that's what you're going to focus on. Okay? So you absolutely would say, who's the vendor? And how much is it going to cost? Like those are going to be natural questions. You don't just say, oh, that looks good to me, off you go. That's ridiculous if that's what he expects everybody to believe. And if that's what he actually did, how the hell did this guy get to be promoted to be the Chief Technology Officer for the entire government. I want to know that. Anyhow, that's a little early rant. Ravi says with a $5 super chat, no, don't die, Min. We need you to go to prison. Oh my goodness.
Savage.
5W with a $5 super chat. I'm sending Mark Holland my road trip pictures, all featuring my old 72 VW bus. No fires yet.
Knock on wood.
Coco Donnie with a $5 super chat. Get to 1,500 likes. I'll make it an even 50 gifted memberships.
There
Excellent.
we go.
There you
So
go.
hit that like button, please.
And Humble Tracker with a $10 super chat. Okay, I lied. Here is a quote. Quote, people's indifference is the best breeding ground for corruption to grow. Delia Ferrer, and that is
Yeah,
an excellent quote.
100%. Because if we as Canadians don't care what our government is doing, we're not going to be paying attention. And they're going to go, oh, nobody's looking at us. Let's do this bad thing and that bad thing. And it just keeps breeding corruption.
Well, let's look at Mendon and see what he says.
For proposals or mock-ups, who had a relationship with them dating back years before the pandemic. That clearly was not me. In sworn affidavits recently filed in the federal court by Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano, I quote from Mr. McDonald's affidavit, Mr. Utano was involved in exploring options to be presented. The internal group of which Utano was part of ultimately recommended GC strategies as the solution. With respect to Deloitte, I also quote from Mr. Utano's affidavit, Deloitte would have developed the application entirely within their operation, while GC Strategies would employ a series of external programmers who would develop the application such that the CBSA could operate and modify the application once CBSA personnel were trained. Those are their words, not mine. I had no telephone calls with GC Strategies. I've seen reported in the Globe and Mail that others had hundreds of phone calls with them, not only during COVID, but dating back 2 years before the pandemic even began. I did not attend any events with GC Strategies, nor was I even invited to these events. Bottler's initial report supports that I did not have a relationship with GC Strategies. It also noted conscious efforts by members of my team to hide information from me. Secondly, on the allegation that I moved files around to intentionally delete emails to hide evidence, this is false. I needed to change my laptop because the battery in my current one was failing. When transferring files from my old computer to my new one, files were corrupted and emails were lost. I personally reported this to my team to attempt recovery of the emails. I believe CBSA still has these laptops and files in their possession.
Okay. So I have to use some unparliamentary language here. Bullshit. And Raul Saides is going to back my butt up on this. That is a horrendous explanation of how his emails got deleted. He's saying that he was changing his laptop and in the process of transferring files over, his emails were deleted. Bullshit. I'm sorry.
That doesn't sound right. I mean, he's not just an IT guy. He's the head of IT in all of government.
Well, it doesn't
he
even matter.
knows better.
It doesn't even matter. Because the one thing that you're not doing when you're copying data from one laptop to another is you're not copying emails. Why? Because, especially as it would relate to the government, that's all going to be located on the email server. They're not going to be sitting there on your laptop. The only time that happens is you can, as some of you who work in an office, you probably know this, you can put Outlook into a mode called cached mode. And what that does is it tells Outlook, which is the email application that you're using to manage your email, it downloads all of that off of the server. Now, it doesn't mean that there is no copy on the server. So this is complete garbage. Absolute garbage of an answer. And there is no way that anything that happens on a local laptop is going to affect anything on the server in terms of corruption. If there is corruption, that happens on the server itself. Has nothing to do with the laptop.
Should be like Amazon or whoever's hosting the server.
Right. But when it comes to mail, it's usually an all or nothing. You don't magically get a subsection of your emails that become corrupted and the rest are okay.
It would be like you, all of
all
your
or
stuff,
nothing.
plus all of your whole department, like everybody, right?
It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
So this is a completely horse crap explanation. Pandemonium with a $10 super chat. Notice the absence of furniture in the room. Hopefully he is as proficient with deleting search history countries without an extradition treaty with Canada as he is with the That's a great one. And full Wookiee member comment for 6 months. Know what's good for your heart, not committing treason or fraud. Yeah, absolutely.
One would think.
Wendy M with a $7 super chat. Tips on healthy maintenance. 1, don't get caught being corrupt. You'd think you'd see that tip more often. And Kurt and Denise, nice to see you guys here. Hello all. It's been a while since we've joined up, but we have kept up with the videos. Hope you guys are having a blast in Ottawa.
Oh, we had so much fun in Ottawa. We're in Montreal now, but Ottawa's like one of my favorite places to visit because I have family there, so I've been going since I was a little girl, and it's just, it's amazing. Like, even though I've been to like all the museums 100 times, like I still just love going back, and it's so much fun to bring our son.
Rabbit says with a $5 super chat, agree with Cypher, the email is on the server. No way, absolutely no way. There you go.
Yeah, because Rabbit Sadie's is an IT guy, if I remember
Sure
correctly.
is.
Yeah.
And
Or gal, sorry.
we're up to 1,375 concurrent viewers and 940 likes. Please ring that doorbell so more people get reminded that this stream is going. Brenda Wee with a $2.79 super chat. My son, 100% right on emails. There you go. All right, let's see where this goes.
Everyone knows emails do not solely reside on a particular computer or laptop. They are delivered through servers where they are usually backed up. In the case of CBSA, the servers in question are under control of another department, Shared Services Canada. More importantly, all recipients, senders, and people on CC would still have copies of their emails with me and could have produced them as required. Neither I nor anyone else can delete other individuals' copies of emails. The loss of emails from my laptop would not result in them no longer existing anywhere else. As a member of the executive team at CBSA at the time, I accept responsibility for the institutional and public service accountability for what occurs within the organization and learn from the findings and recommendations when policies and programs are not proceeded with according to the rules in place, as was highlighted in the OAG and OPO reports. At the same time, when I delegate a task to be completed by those under my authority, particularly to individuals at senior executive EX3 levels, I should reasonably be able to expect that they will do so in accordance with all applicable standards, laws, and regulations.
Okay.
He's totally reading.
Oh yeah, this is a statement. Here's the next problem with what he said. Oh, well, it's not a problem because other people would be copied on my emails and they should still have my emails. Dude, as a parliamentary committee, you can't just issue a directive to the entire government, potentially 300,000 people. On the off chance you were sent an email or sent an email to Minh Doan, please send that to committee. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think police can even do that in a search warrant. They need it to have like a scope. It has to be like, okay, so it needs to be these 3 people that need to send it to us, or it needs to be anybody in the department between this date and that date. Like, they have to have a scope. It can't just be like everybody.
Right, and that doesn't cover any of the outside people from the government. So like external parties, third party vendors, that sort of thing. That doesn't cover them. So, no, like, you can't just say, well, it's not a problem, just ask other people. No, sorry, that's not acceptable. Not acceptable. Suresh Balankar with a $10 super chat. In the corporate environment, the emails are never recommended for cache mode. In many closed networks, emails are remote, and you will not be receiving new ones without connecting to the VPN. Yep, and that's if that's... how they actually operate. The only time where it's quote unquote recommended for cache mode is if you are in an area with a very, very poor connection, in a severely remote area. That's about the only time. So I completely agree with Suresh. And Reba says with a $5 super chat. So he addressed it. So underwear drawer. And Coco Dot with a $5 super chat. I had more letters after my name than most in IT. I can BS. I can get. Yeah, I call BS. I can get it all back if hit bare metal, full stop. There you go. Murray Perrin with a $2 super chat. Is he reading prepared answers? Well, this is his opening statement.
Yeah.
This is his opening statement.
Oh, okay. That's fair
And
then.
Zane Van Eden with a $2.79 super chat. This is the worst case of my dog ate my homework. Yes, it is.
My digital dog ate my digital homework.
That they will flag to me things that require my attention. This is core to how delegation works. In this case, it appears my trust was misplaced. In hindsight, Knowing what I know now, I should have asked more questions and challenged more of those reporting to me. For those failures, I take full responsibility. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Doan. We'll start with Mr. Barrett for 6 minutes, please.
I love Kelly McCauley here because he's just like, oh, thank you very much. You're about to get destroyed. Over to Mr. Barrett. Like, he's so cheery.
He is so cheery. He's a great guy.
Absolutely love Mr. McCauley.
Mr. Doan, you're the Chief Technology Officer of Canada. How long have you been working with computers and IT?
Over 25 years.
And you have training in computer science?
I do.
Do you have an accreditation?
I have a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Would you describe yourself as an IT expert?
I would.
You know how to code, secure data, program, you understand how computer networks work or operate?
I haven't coded in quite a while, but I do.
So there are investigations now ongoing about the missing emails, deleted emails. And I just want to make sure I understand correctly from your opening statement. Your contention is that because you switched the battery out in your laptop, thousands of records were deleted. I am not a computer expert, but I've switched out batteries a couple of times, and I've never heard of that happening. Would you say that that's quite common?
Look at Barrett's face.
Okay,
Amazing.
this is amazing. And it actually makes my statement about what Macaulay just said even more poignant. Yeah, you're about to get destroyed here by a guy who is not an IT guy. This is the most embarrassing line of questioning I think could be thrown at Minh Doan. Like, seriously? He's basically saying, even I'm not an IT guy, and even I know that what you're saying reeks of bullshit. Just saying. And,
what happened to not cursing because our son's in the room?
My son's asleep. and I'm sorry. This is just reeking. I will try to tone down the BS. Brian Poplinski with a $2.79 super chat. Who saves their emails to USB drives? Apparently, Minh Doan. Minh did, and just Minh don't. Whitehall Projects with a $5 super chat. Jester told me that I could say bullshit if I put in a $5 super chat. Cypher needs to be punished, Fox. So much for a family show. Well done.
He does need to be punished.
Yeah, I'll get punished on the way home, I guess. Chris
Yeah, you
Ackroyd
have
with a
to
$5
drive.
super chat. Looking at his background, he must be practicing for times behind bars. No furniture, and shitter is probably behind. Jeez.
Oh my goodness,
It's going
you
to be
guys.
a savage one tonight. Alice Avonlea with a $2 super chat. Wait when he explains how to transfer files. Oh my goodness. Okay. And I know Alice has seen this. So, Joe Vaduda with a $5 super chat. Have Brock subpoena the internal incident ticket that dispatched desktop support and the ticket history of steps executed to resolve the problem. We got some IT folks in here tonight,
We sure
folks.
do.
Robert says with a $2 super chat. He brings shame on the profession. Yes. Diane Sylvain with a $5 super chat. Hi there. We will not take any lessons from Minh Doan.
Yeah, I was going to end up with an entire server of deleted emails for swapping out a battery.
And Dudu with a $2 super chat. Did he feed his Tamagotchi as he missed? You guys are on fire tonight.
You know, I didn't realize those were still a thing. My son and I were at Walmart before we left for the trip, and I told him I would buy him a little toy, and I saw those, and I was like, oh my God, I remember these. Do you want one? He's like, no.
5W with a $2 super chat. Clenching your teeth is a sign of honesty. Brilliant. Here we go.
Pour clarifier, je n'ai pas changé la batterie de...
Let me clarify. I did not change the battery of my computer. I needed to change the computer as a whole. I was not merely changing the battery of my computer.
To change the whole computer, and in the imaging process, someone wiped your computer? I just don't understand. This is not something that that I've heard of. Usually there's quite robust processes. The IT staff here at the House of Commons, for example, in my experience with IT working with Department of National Defense, I've never heard of anything like this. And it's just, it seems incredible to believe that that's the story that you'd have us accept today, but it's incredibly convenient for you that these documents are missing. So how is it that you're both the victim of something that's exceedingly rare, but also the beneficiary of something that's exceedingly helpful for you?
Thank you for the question. Corrupt, what the technical term is corrupt PSTs. Corrupt PSTs are actually not exceedingly rare, fairly common. It's actually so common that Microsoft put a tool in every Windows computer to fix them. In terms of what you say, it is absolutely correct. You get a new computer, it is imaged, but in transferring, no different than if you were to get a home computer on a new home computer, you would want to transfer files from your old one to your new one. So in that transfer, that is where the corruption occurred. So it was fairly standard. You transfer files over and there was a corruption. That's what occurred.
Okay. We have more information. So a PST is a type of file that is, it's an external file to the email server, and it's an external file to Outlook. And what it is it's a way for you to access email and kind of put it in like a backup file. Not even a backup file, because a backup implies that there's a copy of it. It's a separate file. And the only reason you would do that is because your email mailbox is getting far too large.
Mercedes with a $2 chat says PST files are just a local cache. Gah.
Well, not really, right? Because you can take an email out of your Outlook, out of your mailbox, and put it in a PST file. Now, what Doan screwed up on is he's saying, oh, well, it was corrupted in the copy process. Well, if that was the case, then there would still be a copy of it on your old laptop. So where's that?
Yeah, it wouldn't like cross-corrupt, right? It would corrupt perhaps the new file, but not the old one. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, and I've actually never seen a file become corrupted because of a file transfer. The only reason that would be the case is if his PST file was so huge that that's even rare. So like this doesn't make a lot of sense. But here's the other thing. You normally, because I think you're thinking of the OST, because there's two types of files. There's an OST file and a PST file. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the
yeah, this is all like Latin
to
to me.
So what people normally do is they normally keep their recent emails on their laptop, and they take their old emails and they put this in this like archive folder, which is the PST, which is stored on their local drive. Doan didn't really leave too far after all of these emails were allegedly there, so a lot of this doesn't make sense. So let's get through some of this stuff. Gokodani with a $5 super chat. One of our partners is in charge of the entire Eastern Seaboard's InfoSec from USCAN.
Oh, cool.
Nilik with a $2 super chat. Oh, come on! He really thinks we believe that. Mumlin May with a $7 super chat. Here's my contribution to cussing swear jar. Thank you very much for that. And Trish Pro with a $5 super chat. I love how they say they take responsibility and yet they never do. I hope they all are made to take responsibility. Gokodana with a $5 super chat. I am the last one at data recovery before a clean room, and rebuild is needed. Full stop. This client has no idea how WS and servers work. So workstations and servers work. Full stop. I would say is with a $5 super chat. Fair, but there would still be a copy on the server. Yes, there would, in the OST file. And there is a tool to recover, and it works. 5W with a $5 super chat. Could he try unplugging it and plugging it back in again?
Hello, Archie.
And DanToman966 with a $5 super chat. Really, Mindum, really going to gaslight us. He is doing this thing called Bullcrap 101. Pull it out of your rear, and this is going to be good. I wonder what the excuse would be for losing snail mail from Daniel T with a $7 super chat. Yeah, that's the question.
And we're still about 450 likes behind, so please give us a thumbs up. Once we pass 1,500 likes, we get some more memberships.
Thank you very much.
So as Chief Technology Officer of Canada, the practices that are in place currently now see quite commonly that when government employees swap out their hardware, that thousands of files go missing, and with that being your contention, isn't that being the state of play, your accepted standard? Doesn't that compromise your ability to abide by federal law and information retention policies?
So when this occurred, I was not the Chief Technology Officer of the Government of Canada. I was the CIO of CBSA.
So?
And in terms of the question that I failed to answer earlier, you asked, is it convenient for me? I don't know how having my files corrupted would be convenient to me in any way at all. So in terms of your other question, how often does it occur and is it a common occurrence? I think corrupted files is a common occurrence. How often does it occur when different government employees change laptops or computers and that occurs? I could not speak to that.
It is not a common occurrence. Like, what's your definition of common?
Okay, because Cypher's a little bit better with tech than I am, you've swapped out my laptops like multiple times over the past however many years we've been married, and never have my emails been corrupted, never have any of my files been corrupted. Everything's always been fine.
Well, you never had to appear before a parliamentary committee, so that's why.
Yeah, I didn't have a reason to corrupt the files.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Again, what's your definition of common? Like 1 in 1,000? Because that's about
rare.
what I've heard.
That's considered very rare. Like,
and the only time I've heard of files being corrupted is when the actual person isn't managing their files properly. That's the only time. And I can count on a handful of people that I know that's happened to in 20 years. Wendy M with a $7 super chat. Doan is a game player. Take note.
Through his testimony, often he switches between French and English.
Yes, he does, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, and perhaps I'm what would you say, bragging? I don't know. That they know channels like Northern Perspective, English channels like Northern Perspective are following this stuff, and so they switch to French so we cannot clip it.
Well, that's fine. It gets clipped anyway. Ravi says with a $5 super chat, data retention policy should be defined company-wide, enforced with group policy BS. Well, and from what I know, most of the government is on Office 365, which is cloud, so there is no need for PSTs and all of this garbage that he's talking about any longer. Anyway, let's continue.
A minute and a half. The destruction of emails and other documents, of course, are relevant to the information requests as it relates to allegations about your involvement in the $60 million ArriveSCAM and involvement with GC Strategies. Of course, the destruction would be to your benefit if you were attempting to cover up your activities, attempting to camouflage things that you had done. We've seen in the past, prevarications by you at committee, and we found that the main contractor, the favored contractor, also lied before committee. The Information Commissioner of Canada is investigating you destroying these documents and evidence. Have you been interviewed as part of that investigation?
No, personne m'a contacté de ce.
No, no one has contacted me from that office. To come back to what I said at the beginning, the fact that there was corruption of files are no longer on my computer, it doesn't mean that those emails don't exist any longer. All those emails exist in email boxes of all those who received emails from me. it's the same for any of you members.
Dozens, if not hundreds of other people's computers. It makes the investigation exceedingly difficult when the agency you were with at the time has now been noted to have of the worst record keeping that's been seen in the history of the federal government. It's, again, far too convenient and simply not believable what you're offering, sir.
I'm afraid that is our time. Mr. Jouari, for 6 minutes, please.
Yeah. What does it say when the Canada Border Services Agency, one of the agencies you would expect should have the best record keeping, has some of the worst?
That's extremely concerning because, I mean, again, like you said, they should have the best record keeping and they don't. So what's everybody else like?
Well, and the fact that there was so many bad practices, there was so much going on in IT, and this guy didn't know any of it was going on. Give me a break. Not acceptable. And he's accountable. Oh, I accept responsibility. Can I go back to my job? It's just infuriating. Karen Fontaine with a $5 super chat. I can tell your son is sleeping. Cypher is rather quiet. Yes, I'm trying to keep my voice down and my energy level stoic.
And we're trying to keep our son asleep.
So. And any of the Liberal testimony I have left in, it's because it's relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Doan, for coming to the committee. A couple of quick questions, and then I want to go to the emails. First of all, I'm sorry to hear that you had health issues. It is unfortunate. Can you confirm that you have received the accommodation for appearing in this committee as you had requested?
I can confirm that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And can you also confirm that everything that you have so far said to this committee has been honest and has been truthful?
I also confirm that everything I've said so far has been honest and truthful.
Yeah. So you also, in your opening remarks, you talked about Mr. McDonald as well as Mr. Utano testimonies, and you read from their testimonies, and you believe that their testimony is truthful and it's against what's been said about you?
To clarify, it was not, I didn't read that from testimony. That was from affidavits, sworn affidavits from their part with the Federal Court of Canada.
And in their affidavit, basically, are they, as a clarification, are they supporting your testimony, or they're disputing your testimony?
From their affidavits, they are supporting. The question that keeps coming back is who picked GC Strategies and who knew them, who contacted them. And as I quoted, and I'm happy to quote again, it is ultimately recommended the GC Strategies as the solution. That would have been Mr. Otano.
Okay. Thank you for those clarifications. Now, I want to go back to the email, and I'm going to draw on an experience that I had recently. Our computers all went, my personal computer, when I was doing an upgrade on a computer, all my Outlook files were saved in an Outlook folder, and that was backed up. And when I got my new computer, those files were transferred, and then I brought up Outlook, and it came up. Now, as it relates to my work computer, I did not touch it because basically someone from IT came, took my computer, and they went and did the re-imaging. We got a new computer coming back. They came back to the office. They spent about 30 minutes with me. They make sure everything is up, and they validated it. So I didn't have access to any of my files to be able to do a transfer similar to experience that I had when I brought my own computer, my personal computer up. Now, why would you, given the fact, and I understand the fact you're IT savvy, why wouldn't you go to the IT and tell them, hey, look, here's my computer, the battery is dead. Can you get me a new computer and please take care of it? I wouldn't assume CIO of a department will have time to be able to go and do all of that on their own. Can you clarify that, please?
Yes, of course. As was previously alluded to, I've been in technology my entire life. I'm a proud technologist. I'm a proud geek and nerd around that. And part of the IT team that reported to me, and many people will attest, they are also, those that provide VIP service are extremely busy, providing help for the other vice presidents and DMs of the agency. So anytime I could on my own solve what I believe to be a fairly straightforward thing, such as a file transfer, I would do that.
That doesn't sound right. I mean,
Horse manure.
yeah, in any of the organizations you've worked for, the CIO or the head guy in IT just gets the guys at the desk to do it.
Well, and here's the thing. He says, oh, well, they're too busy. Listen.
They will make time for the chief of their department.
Well, listen. Mindone, you have nothing to frickin' do if you have time to do that. I'm sorry. If you're the chief information officer and you have time to sit there for hours copying data over from one laptop to another, you sorry, you have nothing to do. Like, full stop. That is something that those guys are paid to do. And you should be focusing on other things. You should be in meetings.
Well, and especially, here's the thing. Government is a union shop, so I doubt that they would like the chief information technologist taking away work from the union.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
That's something to think about.
That is a union job, and that could have, easily had a greenance filed about it, because
it's not
he's
his
technically
job
doing
description to be doing the work of the guys on the desk.
Yeah, 100%. It's a really good point. So, no, this is a job for the low-level tech guys. I'm sorry, I don't buy this at all. It is complete crap. Cinder next with a $5 super chat. Is Mindone living in the 90s, early 2000s? This kind of data corrupted has been a common problem in has not been a common problem in a long time. Yeah, I agree. Especially since all email was moved to online. Brenda Wee with a $7 super chat. Let's see this corruption happen when changing military computers. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And here's the thing. Let's say it did happen. Guess what would have happened? The IT guys would have been like, uh-oh, well, we better fix that. Snap, fixed. That's what would have happened. Brenda Wee, no, sorry, just got that. Malay Loves Cats with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much. Listened to bits and pieces of this earlier, and I have another theory on the switching languages thing. It seems he switches to French on the potentially contentious answers, hoping some of it could get lost in the translation and interpretation.
Excellent observation. Yeah.
Mercedes with a $5 super chat. It's on the server! Even the others' email boxes, but what the heck? He should be relieved of his responsibilities. Yes, he should, and his accountabilities. Gokodani with a $5 super chat. I can get you a 7-way blind Pixar level instance for darn near free. I was not always a truckie. Honk, honk, honks. Thank you so much, Gokodani. If we ever need that, we will take you up on it.
Thank you. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds cool.
Mercedes with a $5 super chat. Malay Loves Cats. Exactly. It is purposeful obfuscation. 5W with a $5 super chat. I'm having trouble transferring files from my Commodore 64. Well, take it to Mindone. Maybe he can help you out.
Oh, corrupt everything.
Mercedes with a $5 super chat. This is a job for a desk side support guy. The CIO? No, exactly.
Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting too.
And then Alice Avonlea with a $2 super chat. Maybe he was busy getting the boogers out of his nose. Oh, man.
I understand. Somehow you seem to have access as a CIO of CBSA. You seem to have access to the file that was saved on the Outlook folder within the Government of Canada, CBS, whatever that folder is called. Does everyone have access to similar folder?
I'm familiar with the setup that you talked about, that in terms of what we would call traditionally a network share or a common share, where you're, in your case, the files would have been saved. Here, this was a file these were files that I wanted to transfer from my local computer to the new computer I received. So these were not from what you were referring to as a network drive.
Okay, so those were the files. So are you telling me, or sorry, am I right to understand that you had saved work-related files on your personal computer, on a personal folder?
I had both.
Just wanted to make sure, because I'm not an IT guy. I understand IT, but I'm not an IT guy.
I had both. I had, as I mentioned in my opening statements, all emails are backed up on servers, and those servers are managed by another department. They're not managed by my team. They're not managed by the agency. So I have those backups. We also have backups of network drives, and those are managed by the CBSA IT. And I had my local files as well that I wanted to transfer over, maybe any kind of documents or pictures of my children or other things.
Yeah, so with 30 seconds to go, were you keeping Government of Canada emails on your local folder drive, and over thousands of emails all of a sudden got corrupted as a result of that? Just a yes or no.
No.
Thank you, sir. I don't understand that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you just say I don't understand?
Yeah. So the Liberal, this is why I kept him in, right? This is Jawari. He says, I don't understand that. I don't understand it either. Okay, so he's saying he didn't keep it on his local drive. Okay. Now this makes even less sense, everybody, because
It's on a server.
well, if he kept it on what he calls a shared drive, that's on a server, that would be backed up. So where's the backup? Where is it? This is like the search for GC strategies. It's the same thing. Like, none of this makes any sense. Where the hell is it? Joe Venuto with a $5 super chat. Most IT shops do not allow end users to know the admin password to have local administrative rights to be able to read write to hard drives. I call BS. Yeah, I call BS too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because in most cases, the higher up you go, the less admin rights you should have. And why is that?
For stuff like this?
Well, it's so when, if you get hacked as a senior person, then the hacker doesn't have access to everything. So, it's only usually IT guys that are supposed to be getting administrative access to the computer. And in order to copy from one machine to another machine, usually you have to have that. So, none of this makes sense. Rose says with a $5 super chat, which is a breach of data policy for every company I've ever worked for. Yes. Daniel T with a 279 super chat. Just because he is IT doesn't equate to competent. Amen to that. And Peter G with a $5 super chat. As he had a laptop in his position, means IT had to image it first. Yes. Then hand it to him. Yes. IT would have done the transfer. Yes. They would have done it all in the background prior to him getting that laptop in the first place. The only thing that may have even been left is the personal files, but even that they could do in the background. Kokodani with a $5 super chat. One of our other IT partners still has a NT server instance running pre-Windows 2000 for non-tech folk, which has an open share to hack it. No luck so far.
Open dare to hack it.
Open dare to hack it. Well, it's yeah.
That'd be fun.
Or
do you get a prize if you hack it?
Robert stays with a $5 super chat. They're done work. Now you guys have my done work. Now you guys have my full attention. Excellent.
Thank you.
Did you finish copying over Mindon's files?
Yeah, don't forget to corrupt them.
Diane Sylvain with a $10 super chat. Welcome aboard. Just like yo man's testimony. What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shari. Mrs. Vignola, for your 6 minutes, please.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doan, for being here. I have had problems transferring files myself when I was changing my computer from my desktop to my Surface Pro, so I understand in part the problem that you experienced. I experienced that less than a month ago. It's frustrating, it's shocking, annoying, and it's disturbing because you have to start from scratch. And I'm not a computer nerd, so I'm sorry for that word I used. I don't know what the interpreter said. My first question has to do with verification. because during your testimony on the 24th of October 2023, when I reread that testimony, there were some clarifications I needed. You said it was your team that had taken the decision, and after that, you said the team was made up of 1,100 people under your supervision. That's a huge team. 1,400 people, rather. I understand that those 1,400 people were subdivided into smaller teams. So it's not 1,400 people who decided to choose GC strategies. Who made the decision? So I don't believe it's 1,400 people who made that decision. Who made that decision? Answer. Thank you for your question. Indeed, when I appeared, I gave an idea of my responsibilities. I was asked how many people were on the team, and the question was asked as to who made that decision. It was my team. Now, to come back to your question, I'll say what I said in my opening statement. It was members of my team. Of course, it wasn't the 1,400 people, 2 individuals, the individuals whose affidavits I read and talked about a few minutes ago. Thank you. Please remind me, I didn't quite hear you. When were your emails deleted? When did this email problem occur? Did it only concern emails that had to do with ArriveSCAM? Answer, it was at the beginning of 2023 that this happened. Well, I did answer that question, so you heard me well. Now, to come back to the question that was asked by the member before you, it was not my personal computer. We do not have the right to work with our personal computers. It was a computer from the government of Canada, from the CBSA. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify that. Question, were these only ArriveSCAM emails that were deleted, or were these emails that concerned many issues? Answer, when the files are corrupted, it's random. So it's not only files concerning a particular issue. These are technical corrupted files.
What? Okay, so this guy, man.
Were other files deleted?
Well, now he's saying it's
corrupted?
multiple files. So,
But it should have been all of them, right?
well, it depends. But he's saying, first he was saying it was a PST. That's one file, everybody. Now he's saying files. And he's like, oh, well, you know, it's random. Well, if a file's corrupted, it's corrupted. But if it was sitting on the server and it wasn't on his laptop, it can be restored. And that would happen inside of like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And the IT guys will agree with me.
Well, and there's like forensic IT firms that can essentially uncorrupt stuff, isn't there?
No.
No?
But there's tools, there's magical tools out there.
Yeah,
that
like they
can
have recovery
do
tools,
some
because
things.
I mean, like when criminals wipe their computer, they can go in and get stuff.
Look at all the IT guys we have here.
Amazing.
Ravisades with a $2 super chat. Julie seems legit even if she is a separatist. Ravisades with a $5 super chat. If they were using O365 and into 2023, they were. There is no way. MS keeps pushing for 365, but there are some few, in my opinion, advantages to it. Yeah. And this is the thing. If they were using 365, which is online, email only, right? For everybody, that's the cloud. Anything that happened to a local laptop would have zero effect on his emails. They would still be there. Jim V with a member for 7 months. As an IT guy, I am yelling at my screen saying, "You don't image your drive to your new computer. You copy your old files to the new one. And he's right. Transcription with a $5 super chat. The reverb makes the horrible translator sound like the ghost of Miss Cleo. Find the truth. Lawyer psychic advice. $5,000 per meeting. Coco Diney with a $5 super chat. If you can make it to Foylet or White River and they have space, hit me up. I'll get you a deal, and it's all God's country. My treat. Will do.
Awesome, thank you.
And Dirk McFerguson, love the name, with a $5 super chat. They should ask for the trouble ticket details for laptop replacement. It'll have a log of who did what work on the laptop. It absolutely should. We're 212 likes away from additional memberships from Gokodani, so if those who have come in at the end would like a shot at a free membership for Northern Perspective, please go ahead and click that like button. Continuing on.
Now, let's come back to your testimony of the 24th of October. During your testimony, you said you were not the one who had made the decision. You had not been informed of complaints made by Butler, and that in the case of Butler, you were not made aware of the complaints that were lodged. What could be done to at that time you said you didn't know what could have been done to improve the procurement process. So now, what were your tasks as Chief Information Officer at the time? Now, let me come back to the point you raised before. I had 1,400 employees, 6 directors general. I was accountable for systems of the agency, but for all the tools that were used by the agency. So with the delegation of authorities, I had to focus on strategy, particularly technical strategies, and not on policy. I worked with colleagues, vice presidents, other vice presidents, and so on, and we determined the technical strategies, and I also trusted my directors general, depending on the situation, that they would find the best possible means of delivering on our objectives. I also had to inform myself or find out if they needed my help or if they needed to warn me about something I needed to know. So what I did was provide technical and strategic orientation and make sure that all technical deliverables met high-level standards.
He said a lot there, and she said very little as the interpreter.
My lady loves cats, maybe right.
Yeah, I think she missed some stuff, and he was smiling if you caught that during part of that. So that's interesting. That's interesting. What's also interesting is Timothy Kennedy's postulation for $5 that seems like Doan got his bachelor's degree from the Hillary Clinton School of Technical Server Wife.
Nice.
I can believe that.
Very quickly, ultimately, who managed your team? Were you the only one who managed the team, or an entire team that managed the people? There was a hierarchy. Below me, I had 6 directors general who were responsible for others. So there was a hierarchy in place. And that's how it works well with the governance. So I did not directly manage the 1,400 employees. Thank you.
Back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Doan, for being with us today. I think I'll start with some matters concerning Bottler AI. And my understanding from Bottler is that they have still not been paid about $220,000 for work that they delivered. And if I understand correctly how they became involved in this, someone who worked for you went out and found Bottler AI and then convinced them to contact GC Strategies. And GC Strategies then got them to do some work for a CBSA project, and those deliverables were delivered. But as of today, they're still owed quite a bit of money. I'm wondering how that money could not have been paid to Bottler AI for the work that they did.
I believe that there are a few questions there, if I may try to address them as directly as possible. How they came to be has been an issue of contention, as you rightfully point out. There were testimony by some witnesses that it was an unsolicited proposal from GC Strategies. I've heard from the president of CBSA at this committee or another committee that it was actually, in fact, not an unsolicited proposal by this individual, and it is, as you say, this individual found this company and then asked them to work with GC Strategies, which is consistent with some of the social media messages that I've seen posted by Bottler. So I do believe your summary of events to be consistent with what I've seen in terms of testimony and evidence. In terms of other testimony, although I wasn't involved in the payment of Bottlers, that was delegated to my team. What I'd heard from early testimony back in the late fall is that my understanding that they were paid for the 2 out of 6 modules that they had delivered, and that the contract was stopped. I would, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of details in terms of what payments were and were not made. I would perhaps redirect that question to CBSA, who would have all the details of which invoices and which modules were paid. But my understanding from testimony here was that they were paid for the work that they had completed and accepted.
You know, this guy for a CIO doesn't know a lot about what goes on in his department.
Doesn't seem like it.
He was asked a question, is this what happened? And he's like, well, my understanding from testimony and my understanding from social media posts. Why don't you know this?
Or he's just wording it in such a way to avoid perjuring himself.
Or being called a
because,
liar.
I mean, he's under oath, right? That's another explanation possibly.
Yep.
Or his lawyers advised him to word it a certain way, perhaps.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's probably because he did something similar earlier on when he said, well, my understanding from the affidavits filed by Cameron McDonald and Tony Utano. So, interesting. Okay. Let's get to Ravisays with a $5 super chat. High level of standards, like the guards protecting pitching.
Oh, man.
And Ravisays with a $10 super chat. Yep, watch the floor video version, bilingual here, and now listening to the interpretation, it confirms my thought.
Oh, good to know. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
So I guess the confusing part, Mr. Doan, is that if they delivered 6 modules and got paid for 2, what about the other 4? And I think that's where the contention lies. And I don't know if these are questions that you can answer, given your relationship to this work. But as I understand it, they were clearly asked to deliver all 6 of the deliverables, and they delivered all 6 of them, and then they were only paid for 2 of them. Is that your understanding of what's being alleged?
C'est pas ma compréhension de qu'est-ce.
That is my understanding of what happened. From what my information comes from what I heard from the other committees. I think there was an agreement for a pilot project that was going up to 6 modules. The client, given the nature of what they're working on, sexual harassment, AI, human resources, from what I understand is that of the 6 modules, they delivered on 2 that were accepted, and then the work stopped. So my understanding is not that they delivered on the 6 modules, but maybe my knowledge is not based on the most recent information, but my knowledge is based on what I heard in committee.
So, Mr. Doan, last time you were at committee, you said that your role was IT, not procurement. Which is something you've reiterated today. The Auditor General found that CBSA failed to use their procurement directorate to procure GC strategies, but instead the Information Science and Technology branch worked directly with PSPC for contracting it. If, like by your own admission, you're not a procurement expert, why did you elect to not use the procurement experts in the CBSA procurement directorate?
Thank you for the question. It was during a time of a pandemic and emergency. I go back to what my opening statement and what I've said. I did not make that decision not to go through the procurement directorate. The decision once I've made the decision on direction for staff augmentation, the procurement itself was carried out by my delegated DG.
I really would love to know what this guy does on a day-to-day basis to earn his salary.
But I'm just sick of hearing the pandemic excuse. I mean, rules and procedures are put in place so that when there is an emergency, you know exactly what to follow.
Well, and you know what? I worked for a big company during the pandemic. And when that went down, yeah, there was scrambling. But you know what we did? We held to our process. Why? Because the process allowed us to, not really worry about how things were going to get done. We just relied on the process to get it done. The problem is these guys, they didn't have process. They just, started flailing about like frickin' Zoidberg coming out of a dumpster banquet. And they just, they're leading us to believe, oh, well, it was only the pandemic when we did this. I don't believe that for a second. I'm starting to think that this is how you guys just do business.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It is absolutely ridiculous. Goko Dani with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much. Followed up by Milady Loves Cats with 20 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much, Milady. And if you've received a membership by any of them, please give them a big, big thank you. Storm coming in with a $5 super chat. Hunter Biden should have sent his laptop to Mindo for the repairs. Yes, he sure
quote
should
unquote repairs.
And Ravis says with a $5 super chat. I respect his lawyer. How he has sat there and managed to restrain himself from smacking him upside the head.
Because he's not allowed on camera, that's why.
That's why. Can you imagine you just see miscellaneous hand come in and smack? Great.
Moving on to some of the questions around, this is from a line of questioning from Mr. Barrett at one of our last meetings. And this is in which Mr. Barrett was questioning around the invitation to dinners or activities with vendors. And I believe this, Mr. Utano, Mr. McDonald indicated that he had been invited to dinners and that he had disclosed this to his supervisor. Mr. Utano says, the short answer is I was at one dinner and that was disclosed to my boss, who was Minh Doan at the time. Did Cameron McDonald or Antonio Utano disclose these to you?
I've only what were they called? Whiskey tastings and meetings at Lansdowne and other pubs. I've only learned of that recently as they came up in either the Globe and Mail or committee. Mr. McDonald did not disclose or ask, and that was something I've also seen in the OAG report. So they did not ask for permission and to attend these whiskey tastings or other meetings with, I believe, GC Strategies.
Those are conflicting testimonies then.
Yes, they are. And there's an easy way to prove it, and that's by email.
Now see, I don't believe either party. I have low trust in them, like both of them. So who do you believe? Like, they can't both be true.
Well, if Cameron McDonald can produce an email, and that email can be traced, through the logs on the server that actually went to Minh Doan, disclosing the whiskey tasting, then Cameron McDonald is telling the truth. The convenient thing is all of those emails from that you'd be able to check on Minh Doan's mailbox, those are missing, everybody.
So why doesn't McDonald have it?
Well, that's the question, and maybe he does. We'll see.
Thanks very much. That ends our first round. We're going to suspend for 5 minutes exactly, and Mr. Kusmarchuk will do your voice check right now. We'll do this round and then do another 5-minute break. We'll start with Mr. Brock for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Doan, you'll agree with me that long before Mr. McDonald, Mr. Utano stated emphatically that you had lied to committee not once but numerous times. You, in fact, were friends with Cameron McDonald. Isn't that correct?
I would consider him a very close colleague that I got along with.
Yes. I'm looking at a text exchange from October the 24th, 2022 between yourself and Cameron McDonald.
Okay, October 24th, 2022. Now, remember, at the end of the last committee that Mindone was at, they had asked for all text messages. So they would have subpoenaed these from the Government of Canada mobile phone provider, whether that's Rogers or Bell or whomever.
Whoever, yeah.
So they would have received all of those text exchanges. And interesting, the timeline here. So the text message that Brock was talking about is October of 2022. When were all of Mindone's emails deleted? January of 2023. Isn't that interesting? And October 2022, that's when all of the costing was being discussed about ArriveSCAM, and that's when this was going to go down in committee. So very interesting on the timing here.
I think you mean suspicious.
Yes, that's the word. Chris Shekanowicz, with a member comment, worked in finance for an international company who got hacked by ransomware. That was fun.
Oh man, I
Nice.
can't imagine.
And Reva says with the $2, I know she say worked. Does that finance company even exist anymore?
Yeah, maybe not.
And Reva says with a $2 super chat, oh, I just heard conflict of interest.
Where you're joking around, talking about your upcoming appearance at committee. This was your first appearance. You were joking around saying, my first line at committee next week, Tina made me do it. My second line, Cameron McDonald, Mac, not Mick, Mr. Speaker, did everything behind my back. You were joking. Mr. McDonald knew you were joking. Mr. McDonald said, yes, this entire thing is brutal. And then you stated something very interestingly. You said, I quote, my issue isn't talking. I'm rather good at running my mouth. Now, I take that to mean I'm pretty good at telling tall tales. And I would suggest very strongly that's precisely what you have done on the last two committee appearances, and that's what you're starting to do right now. You are very good at telling lies, Mr. Doan. Furthermore, you continue, and Mr. McDonald says in response, ha ha, oh, I wasn't worried. You then said, my issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. Can't throw PHAC, public health, under the bus. Can't throw ministers under the bus.
Oh. That's significant. Wow. Whoa.
As Fox would say, uh-oh, spaghetti-o.
Yeah. That's a big spaghetti.
That's a problem, folks. Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm just processing this. I know I'm like making it over dramatic, and I don't mean to. I'm just processing.
This is heavy.
That was quite. Oh my goodness.
Damning, one might
like,
say.
Oh crap.
Yeah.
Oh crap. You know what, Brock? Go get them.
Well, because even if you have text, or even if you delete the text, the mobile carrier usually has them still, right?
Not usually. They have to have it for court reasons.
Wow.
So yeah.
And as an IT guy, you think he would know something like that? Like, don't put anything in text.
Right. Yeah, Lloyd Graham. That's a bingo. Oh wow! Shots fired. Okay, let's go.
It's hard to explain the complexity and cost of this thing without doing that. So, several questions, Mr. Doan, starting with PHAC. Who at PHAC are you trying to protect?
Thank you for the question. I'm not, first of all, I do not recall those exchanges. I'm not questioning them. I don't recall exchanges I sent 2 years ago. I send hundreds of texts a day. But In terms of protecting anybody, there is nobody to protect. In terms of the question of throwing people under the bus, the PHAC were the business owners. They defined the requirements. I think it was well stated here. There are, I believe, to memory, over 80 OICs. Those were not CVSA OICs. We had to react. We were working around the clock to meet the requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Doan. I only have 5 minutes. I'm reclaiming my time. To your point that you don't recall, these text messages are probably still on your phone, unless, of course, they mysteriously got deleted as well. Okay, so I encourage you to review your phone messages from just over a year and a half ago. Can't throw ministers under the bus. We already know about the difficulties you had with Minister Mendocino, who wanted someone's head on a platter, and you threatening Mr. McDonald to throw him under the bus. Are you still protecting Minister Mendocino?
Oh.
Thank you for the question. Those are allegations and not facts, and they're allegations
Are
from
you
an
still
individual.
Mr. Doan, very straightforward question. Are you still protecting Minister Mendocino, now known as MP Marco Mendocino? Yes or no?
No, I have no reason to protect him.
Then why would you say that emphatically in a text message? Why would you give the illusion that you want to say more, but you can't?
No.
You swore to tell the truth. You affirmed to tell the truth, not only today, but on your last appearance. You can't have it both ways. You can't just give us some of the evidence and hold back relevant details. Your affirmation is to give us the straight goods, Mr. Doan. No one forced you to write these text messages. This came from you.
Go get him, Brock.
Wow.
Like, go frickin' get him.
Daniel T says it right with the 279 super chat. Wow, that was a slam dunk from Brock. It sure was.
This is what happens when you have a former Crown prosecutor in committee and and coming after a liar like Mindone. Well, I don't recall those text messages. That doesn't mean they don't exist. And you know, trying to say, oh well, those are allegations. No, it's not an allegation. This is you writing this, buddy. Like, no. Derek Macbeth, gotta love Brock. Also with the exchange online, they could have restored the email and put a legal hold on his mailbox. There you go. Rob says with a $5 super chat. I mean, if Champagne is one of the MPs who is working for a foreign government too.
I don't know. I suspect, and I have no proof, but just based on the way things are worded and the fact that the Liberals weren't talking, it may be Han Dong, but we don't know yet. We unfortunately have to sit and wait. But that's my suspicion.
And there may be more.
There may be more. Hopefully not, because if there is somebody else, then it means at least 2 people were doing this.
Craig Robertson with a $2 super chat. I love it when criminals document their own crimes. Isn't that
Right?
nice? Isn't that nice? Makes it a lot easier. And Rose Save with a $5 super chat. I smelled the delightful smell of a criminal perjuring himself.
Under oath, no less.
So what is it you really wanted to say, but you felt compelled that you couldn't? Who were you protecting, and what are you hiding, Mr. Doan? Is the relevant question. What are you hiding?
Mr. Chair, I'm trying to answer the member's question.
What are you hiding?
You have about 10 seconds.
I have nothing to hide. I have nobody to protect. It was a very stressful and difficult time, and we were responding to the pandemic and the needs of FAC and others.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Baines, please.
That answer is going to come back to haunt him. Because he has essentially said, no, I'm not going to answer that question.
It's too stressful at the time.
Really? Look at how stressed he looks, right? Clearly he needs a break. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Doan, for joining us today.
Now remember, I have kept in Liberals that are asking relevant questions. Yes, mark it on your calendar. Parm Baines is actually asking relevant questions.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just still a little bit confused about the files that were corrupted. How many did you say that were corrupted?
In terms of what we talked about here specifically, it would have been one file called a PST file.
One single file. What's on there? What was on there?
A PST file is a file that is used by Outlook to store emails and other things.
How many emails?
I couldn't tell you.
And when you lost those emails, did you say like, oh no, I've lost a lot of important information?
Amazing.
Oh no.
That was a good. Well, I mean, he can't say "oh shit" in committee.
Oh no. Thanks, Parm.
Oui, absolument. Et comme j'ai dit,
Yes, indeed. That is what I said during my open remarks. I'm the one who reported the matter to the team. It's well documented. I asked that they immediately start the process to recover the emails.
it's in email. I asked them to use either internal tools, services from other groups within the agency, such as the internal investigation, who I assume have extra tools to do this type of work.
Okay,
I
and
asked them to conduct shared services.
Who is them? Who did that work?
My IT team that are responsible for technical support. And my main interface was my direct report at the time, the DG that was leading that IT team.
But they're so busy, Mindon. Why didn't you just try and fix it yourself? Or maybe you did.
"Quote unquote" fix.
I was saying with a $2 super chat, no doubt referring to my comment about Parm Baines asking relevant questions. Oh, a miracle occurs. That was my impression of Angel singing. More like a goose singing.
Well done, dear.
Peter G with a $5 super chat. If he was heavily stressed at that time with his heart condition, why did he not step away? Great question. Great question.
And were they able to successfully get some of this stuff back?
Not in the time that I needed, and then I also moved to a different department after that, but I believe the efforts are ongoing, but I would have to refer to CBSA to see what the status is. I know this is being currently investigated as well.
I love this. Efforts are ongoing. It doesn't take a frickin' year to restore something like this. It takes about 15 minutes.
Can't you just Control Z?
No. Like, this is the most frustrating part about this. Efforts are ongoing. Hello? If your IT team is taking 6 months to restore one file, they all need to be fired. All of them. I don't care. Fire them all. I don't want to hear it because, that is just utter incompetence.
So those efforts are still ongoing. We at some point could possibly see these emails.
I can't speak on the efforts. I'm obviously not part of it, and I'm not part of the investigation and looking into this allegation. I have met with the investigator.
But you said the efforts are ongoing.
I believe the efforts are ongoing by CBSA.
See, when Parm Baines is confused, you know you done screwed up.
Sorry, who's Diane Daly?
If memory serves, she was somebody that was in charge of financials or procurement under Mr. McDonald, and then subsequently under Mr. Utano when Mr. McDonald left, would be my memory.
And did you have a working relationship with Ms. Daly?
No, I do not. Or my apologies. No, I did not.
Were you then surprised to hear Christian Firth of GC Strategies say that Diane Daly was the public servant he met with where he was allegedly able to negotiate or provide technical recommendations for the original ArriveSCAM contract?
Je m'attendais pas à ça.
I wasn't expecting that.
Oh.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Je m'attendais pas à ça.
I wasn't expecting that.
Why not?
I would, following the testimony here, I would have thought that he would have dealt with somebody a little bit more senior in terms of dealing and negotiating things around contracting.
So Ms. Daly was a junior level officer in her work?
I can't tell you from memory. I didn't interact with her. I can't tell you from memory what level she was exactly, but if memory serves, she was not even an executive role. So she, in terms of specifics, she was not even what we would call an EX1, but I may be wrong there. She may have been acting.
So who would be the appropriate person Mr. Firth should have been talking to?
Talking to in terms of what, in what context?
Keep up, Doan. God. This guy calls himself the Chief Technology Officer of Canada. Keep up. This guy's infuriating.
It's hard to keep up.
This guy
if
should
you're not telling
marry
the truth.
Christian Freeland. Travis says with a $5 super chat, well, depending on the number, but like a week is the most I ever had to do, and that was over 100,000 emails. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge, huge file, if it's like one file. But this has been going on for like 6 months.
You just said that you didn't expect that because you wouldn't expect him to meet with someone at her level. It would be somebody else. Who would that other person, the appropriate person, be to work on something like negotiating a contract or providing technical recommendations for this ArriveSCAM?
The interesting thing is he doesn't seem to want to name Cameron McDonald here. And I'm very curious as to why that is.
I'm very curious why he switched to French for one answer and then right back to English.
Right. And then when he asked for clarification, he remained in French.
Yeah.
I think what the OAG and others have shown to answer your question is that I don't know that there were a lot of appropriate contacts, but that's just based on what I've seen in reports in the Globe and Mail. In terms of also what I've seen in testimony and evidence is that his usual contacts would have been more Mr. McDonald and Mr. Otano.
That's not the question. This is all lawyering right now. The question was, who should McDonald have been talking to about the contract? Oh, well, from the testimony, I understand his usual contacts are McDonald. This guy is not being truthful here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Baines. Mrs. Vignola for 2.5, please.
Merci. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me come back to what you said in the past when I asked my questions. How come could you explain the fact that when Butler complained for the first time by email to Mr. Utano did not inform you, considering that he was directly reporting to you? He should have informed you, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for the question. That comes back to something I said. Delegation works in that decisions are taken at different levels of the hierarchy. Different people can take different decisions. We assume that when those decisions are taken, the codes of practices are respected. So there's common sense respected. And when there's an issue, they have to tell me that there's a problem. I am managing it, but you must be aware of it, or I am not able to manage it. But I heard that efforts were made to hide a number of things from me, from what I heard from Butler, and things were not brought to my attention. Knowing what I know now, I think that he should have raised the matter with me. He could have said, I'm not dealing with that. He could have told me, boss, I'm taking care of that, but I need you to know. If you want me to do something else, I will do so. Thank you. In their testimony, Mr. Utano and Mr. McDonald said they were victims of harassment, or they may have been used as scapegoats to protect other people, including yourself. What is your reaction to these allegations? and to the fact that Mr. Utano and Mr. McDonald are also accusing Butler of fraud, how would you react to these testimonies and allegations that have been made towards you and towards your management and testimony?
I'm afraid there's no time left to respond, but perhaps we can get back to that and Mrs. Vignola's next round. Mr. Backrack for 2.5, please.
I'm actually glad that she came straight in and asked him. Like, so what do you think about the allegations that they're just protecting people or being scapegoated? Now, my guess is, well, you know, I'm not going to be, you know, I can't comment on the motivations of other people. You know, that's what he should say from
Yeah.
a lawyer purpose.
I mean, hopefully she's able to ask it again in the next round.
Yeah, and we'll see. But anyhow, Rabbit says with a $5 super chat. No one in the ROC understands French, don't you know? If I can answer in French, then I will be in the clear. And 5W with a $5 super chat. Well, I always thought old Parm there was a waste of skin. I still do. Love it.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just returning to this question of dinners and entertainment with ArriveSCAM contractors, and getting back to Mr. Utano's response to Mr. Barrett at a previous meeting. He says, the short answer is I was at one dinner and that was disclosed to my boss, who was Minh Doan at the time. In fact, my boss was present. Mr. Doan, were you indeed present at this dinner with ArriveSCAM, at least one ArriveSCAM vendor?
Thank you for the question. I was at a conference in Washington, D.C. that was put on by Amazon Web Services for public sector. At the end of I had approval from my superior to attend this conference, as was Mr. Utano. We were using AWS as our cloud service. And at the end of the last day of the conference, it was presented to me that there would be a group dinner with the Canadian delegation. So myself and Mr. Utano attended that meeting with AWS. They picked up the tab in the moment. I didn't push back. And because of this, I did not claim my meal for that dinner as part of my travel expenses.
Dinner disclosed as per the rules for disclosure?
It was part of a conference, and it was at the end, a conference that I had approval to attend, so I did not disclose that afterwards.
That's suspicious to me. Now, I know the rules for public servants are going to be a little bit different than the rules for MPs. But, you know, we met our MP for dinner when we were in Ottawa and had offered to buy him dinner because, you know, he had shown us around the House of Commons and stuff. And he was just like, no, don't worry about it. I got it because I don't want to have to go to the work to disclose it.
Yeah, because MPs can only accept basically a $40 dinner amount from somebody. And with inflation and everything, you know,
That
else going on.
doesn't buy you a lot these days.
Even going to McDonald's, you're getting close to that, right? So they're just like, you know, it's just easier if I pay for it myself and that's it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if it's the same $40 limit for public servants or if it's different.
It all depends because, you know, it depends if Amazon is paying for the conference and paying for their travel and paying for all this other stuff. So if they're already paying for your travel and your stay and everything like that, then it's kind of a given that they're going to be paying for, you know, meals and stuff like that. So I would understand why he didn't. Now, if Amazon was putting on a conference and Minh Doan was having to pay for it on the government's dime, right? Paying for the flight, paying for the hotel, and paying for everything else. And this was the first actual free thing that he was given. That's a little different. But that's the thing. We would need to dig into this a little more to understand the whole context.
So you had approval to attend the conference, but not to go for a dinner with an ArriveSCAM contractor who subsequently picked up the tab for that dinner. I guess it seems, if the rules are that you have to disclose when vendors buy you dinner, in this case, very clearly the vendor bought you dinner. It happened to be at a conference, after a conference, actually. Like, do you feel that you were acting within the bounds of the disclosure rules?
In terms of the conference, it was something that I had approval to, but to answer your question, it is something I regret. I should not even in the context of a group setting as part of what was presented as a Canadian delegation, I should not have accepted that dinner, and I should have disclosed it.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mrs. Block, please, for 5.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Doan, you have appeared at this committee twice before, and unfortunately, you have been evasive and refused to clearly answer direct questions, and we're seeing that again today. This has resulted in you asserting falsehoods, which have been refuted since your last appearance by witnesses that have since attended this committee. During your appearance on November 14th, 2023, and again today, in your opening remarks, you stated in relation to the 2 options for ArriveSCAM that were presented to you, that there was no company associated with the second option. And that's a quote from your testimony on November 14th. And this was in reference to the GC strategies option, which I believe you reiterated again today. However, Mr. Doan, we have been given the slide decks of the 2 options which were presented to you, both the Deloitte slide deck and the GC strategies slide deck. And what we can see on the Deloitte slide deck, there is no logo or anything to indicate which company is behind that option. Yet you knew that it was Deloitte. On the GC strategies slide deck, there was the logo of their primary subcontractor, Distill Mobile. Yet you claim to have had no knowledge of which company was responsible for this option. Why did you lie to this committee at that time?
Whoa. You know,
Ms. Block doesn't mince words.
she does it in a much calmer way than Brock, and it's just as effective.
Oh, for sure.
Like when she's talking, I don't want to lie to her. Right? Because she commands respect with the way she speaks. Maybe that's just me, but that's just how she comes across. And she's such a MP with a high reputation, a high amount of integrity. I wouldn't want to lie to her. I'd be disappointed in myself. But the only thing that I would say here, devil's advocate, is that it's very easy to change a PowerPoint presentation. So in Minh Doan's possible defense, it's possible he received one version of this PowerPoint, and then, to make it seem like that, McDonald and Utano actually did present what was in the deck and added some vendors. They could have changed it and then given that to the Conservatives. So it depends on what format this was given in, right? If they were sent an email and the email had the presentation in it and the email was from way back in 2020, I would be more inclined to accept this as, irrefutable proof. Maybe that's what was the case. So it all depends. Peter G with a $5 super chat. Are the Liberals feeling okay? They are acting shady, or will they revert back to their normal tactics? Yeah, near the end. So I was saying with a $5 super chat, replying to Peter G. Oh, these corruption numbers are rookie numbers. We got to get those numbers.
Yeah, how many scandals do you think they can have at the same time?
And Robert says with another $5 super chat, it takes a special effort for Minh to push his head into the sand like that. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. My opening statement, I was very specific that there were no mention of GC strategies. I did not say there were no company logos. I did hear testimony about this Distill Mobile. When I went back into the records after hearing that testimony, there are many versions of that particular deck that you spoke of that was developed in a very short period of time. There was early on Distill Mobile, which It's not GC Strategies. And should I have known that Distill Mobile was the subcontractor at that time of GC Strategies? I did not. And then you will also see in evidence that I believe CBSA can or has provided that subsequent to the different versions that were coming fast and furious, the later versions of that deck, the Distill Mobile logo mysteriously disappears as well. But in my opening remarks, I did not say that there were no company logos. I specifically said there was not a reference to GC Strategies.
Correct, and I would suggest that that is just an example of an evasive answer, which you could have provided at the time.
Agreed. Right? So.
Yeah, it's like getting off on a technicality.
Well, and it's like, yeah, I didn't see any vendors. Okay, well, fine, you didn't see GC Strategies, but why didn't you say, well, you know, GC Strategies wasn't there. The only thing that was provided to me was Distill Mobile. Like, this is the thing, and this is what Block is saying. Well, you're being evasive. You're not giving the whole story. What the hell? Like, this is like pulling teeth from you. And that's what she's talking about.
Your opening remarks or in response to a question earlier in this committee, you indicated that as the lead on this team, you should have asked more questions, that this was your team, that you take responsibility, and yet it would seem that you continue not to take responsibility and provide evasive answers to the questions that you are being asked. During your appearance before this committee on October 24th, 2023, you indicated that your hiring at Treasury Board was through a competitive process. You stated, and I quote, "I was in the middle of a competitive process with Treasury Board. However, we have since learned from Treasury Board officials that you were not hired through a competitive process. We were told that you," and I quote, "came over at level, and they clarified that it was non-competitive." Again, you lied.
Oh, I do remember that. This was an allegation from Cameron McDonald, if you recall. And Cameron McDonald had thrown out there that, oh, you know, I was hired, you know, through a competitive process, but Mindone wasn't hired, and then Mindone had said that he was hired in a competitive process. That's something he said in his first testimony. So isn't it interesting that the Conservatives and the committee went, all right, so Treasury Board, did you hire Mindone through a competitive process? No.
So Cameron McDonald was telling the truth.
On that point.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, like, you know, I think what bothers me the most about this whole ArriveSCAM debacle is that there's no good or evil. Like, there's no black or white. Everybody's telling the truth in some parts and everybody's lying in some parts. You can't tell who's good or bad.
And you can't tell who's lying. That's the problem. And I think the problem is everybody is lying, and there's a sprinkle of truth in there, which makes it very difficult.
Yes, and I'm having trouble reconciling that there's like no good guys or no bad guys. Everybody's like a shade of gray.
Rose says with a $5 super chat, ever pulling teeth from chickens? Good on you, Kelly Block. Oh, jeez.
I don't think chickens have teeth. I know that geese have like weird sharp things on their tongues. Freak me out, man.
To this committee, you were given this new cushy job at the Treasury Board, despite your failures at CBSA.
Yep.
I'm thinking you must have had a pretty good reference. Could you share with us today who your references were for your move to the Treasury Board?
Let me paraphrase for Kelly Block. What minister got you the job at Treasury Board? Would you care to say who that was, please? And I'm wondering, was that as payment for protecting them?
So who was the minister at the time, do we know?
Monsieur Mendicino.
Of Treasury Board?
No.
No.
He
was safety, public safety.
Yeah, which is who Mindone's CBSA division reported into.
Oh, so because the theory is that because Mendicino was protected, Mindone was promoted.
Correct.
Ooh, interesting
Correct.
theory.
And we heard earlier that he said you know, there's things I want to say, but I can't, and I have to protect the ministers.
Oh, the plot thickens.
So did Doan get his chief technology officer of, that's the highest you can go in that position. There's the CIO and the CTO, chief technology and chief information officer. Did he get that as a result of protecting Mendocino? That's the question.
Indeed.
And Daniel T with a 279 super chat, another her slam dunking. Yes.
Yes, the Conservatives are on a roll tonight.
Yeah. Lady Loves Cats with 10 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Again, thank you very, very much for that. Much appreciated. And Fox dropped 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships.
Yeah, that's
from
for
us.
crossing 1,500 likes. Thank you very much,
There
everybody.
you go. Thank you.
Those were not my statements. The question was, did I receive a non-advertised? I did. I was an EX4 as CIO at CBSA. I was in a process for an EX5 with Treasury Board, and this can be verified. I was at the interview stage. That is when CBSA learned that it was in a EX5 process, and they counter-offered with a non-advertised EX5. So this continues to be consistent with what I said last time. Then when I moved over to as the chief technology officer, it was a lateral. It was not a promotion. It was a lateral move. I was already in EX5.
Mr. Chair,
That is
I
our
asked,
time, I'm afraid. Ms. Atwin, please.
Bummer. And you know what? This is what makes Kelly a very, very good chair, is that he's not just like, oh yeah, you know, let's give you an extra few seconds. No, he said 5 minutes and that's it. That's it. Even if it's a Conservative MP asking the question, you're done when you're done.
Well, yeah, and he said that in the beginning,
Yep.
right? So he has to stick to it. So he's a very fair chair. It sucks, but he's like, well, you can come back to it. Hold on to it. And Kelly Block no doubt was going to be like, Mr. Chair, he's not answering my question. So hopefully we get back to that. Oh, and we skip Atwin, by the way, not relevant. So what world are we living in when Parm has a more relevant question than Atwin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Doan, for being with us. I'd like to go back to...
No. I thought I took this
Oh,
out.
yeah, I thought you took it out too. Did you forget?
Well, it's coming out now.
Doing one more round, then we'll get to a 10-minute break. We're starting with Mr. Genuis, then Mr. Souza. Go ahead, Mr. Genuis, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So Mr. Doan, I'm trying to put together the picture here. In the context of the ArriveSCAM story, one big issue is missing records. The Auditor General has identified this as a key issue, records that should be there that aren't there that would help us understand what happened in this whole fiasco. The fact that the records don't exist or can't be found means that they either were never created or they were at some point destroyed. Now, you are one of the figures involved in discussion of the ArriveSCAM issue, and in the midst of this, we see very significant and detailed allegations around your files disappearing. And if I understand your testimony today, your files encountered some kind of a technical problem, and then you undertook a kind of a do-it-yourself on your computer. And you explain this do-it-yourself procedure you undertook because the IT folks are very busy. Now, you're a senior public servant. I would think that you're very busy as well. It would seem odd to me if a CEO at a big company said that he's just going to schedule his own meetings because his secretary and scheduler are very busy. Nonetheless, you undertook a DIY on your own computer outside of protocol, and in the process, something went wrong, and files disappeared. And at the same time, we have a problem of missing records that make it harder for us to understand what happened with the whole ArriveSCAM issue. Is my description broadly correct in terms of your testimony, or have I missed something?
You know, nobody can deliver lines quite like Mr. Genuis can.
Oh, he's great.
That was amazing.
He's so great. And he nailed it. I guess he and I are of one mind. Like, you should be busy. You should be too busy to do this.
Right.
Robert says with a $5 super chat, what was the pressure you used when kissing chicken on those knee pads when they gave you that job?
Wow.
Craig Robertson with a $5 super chat. Fox, chickens don't have teeth. Pulling them would be easier than getting truth out of the sky.
Oh, I know. I was just trying to be silly.
There you go.
In terms of, I didn't attempt to fix anything. So I had identified to me that my battery was about to go, and I needed on my current work laptop at the time. Et avant de tout perdre, donc si la batterie.
Before losing everything, I needed to get a new laptop. So when I did the transfer, as you say, the DIY.
A kind of a control C and a control V. So it was copy one file.
Okay, Mr. Doan, I know you've been trained on how to testify at committees, and I don't want you to run my whole time. I did ask a fairly clear question, I think. You had testified earlier, and you're testifying now, that you undertook work that would normally be done by designated IT professionals. Instead of calling in the designated IT team, you went and did it yourself. Is that correct? I mean, that's essentially what you said earlier.
Yes, I copied a file into the network and copied it onto my new computer.
Okay. In the process of doing that, files were accidentally damaged.
Okay, so I'm going to rely on people in the chat for this. That sounds like different than what he said before. He was specifically asked, was this file on his local laptop? And he said no. So that meant it was on the shared drive. What he just said is that it was on his local laptop.
And
he
tried to
then
copy
copied
and
it to the
paste,
shared drive,
yeah.
and then he copied it from the shared drive back to his new laptop. And he's saying that in that process, it was corrupted.
So then it should still be on the
original laptop.
Right. Yes, thank you. Unless he was stupid and did a Control X, which is a cut, which everybody knows you're not supposed to do.
But he said Control C.
Yeah.
He said Control C.
Yeah.
So Control C is a copy. It doesn't destroy the original file.
So I don't think this is accurate.
Revis Hades with a $5 super chat. Actually, Janice has a point. It would be a disciplinary action for someone doing something like that at most companies I have worked for. Yep. And following up with another $5 super chat. Oh, switching languages mid-answer. Amazing skills by our guy.
But is that not suspicious?
It's weird.
Suspicious to me.
It's very weird.
I'm not bilingual. Okay, I did grow up in a bilingual household that was Italian and English, and the kids, like me and my siblings, didn't speak it. And anytime my mom and my grandma didn't want us knowing what they were saying, that's when they would switch to Italian.
It's very weird. It's very weird.
And that has led to a situation in which it's hard to find these records. According to this IT employee who spoke to the Globe and Mail, the fact that you didn't engage the proper IT professionals for this is extremely unusual. It's outside of the proper protocol. You contacted an individual IT employee directly at one point instead of going through the proper process. I mean, how are we to find you credible, sir? And I want to give you the benefit of the doubt here, but how are we to find your testimony credible that, given how central missing records is to this whole story, that you, one of the central figures in this story, undertook to go outside the normal protocol to manipulate things on your computer on your own, and in the process, files were corrupted and disappeared. Like how are we to believe credibly that you were just trying to save the folks in IT some time as a senior manager, and something just happened to go wrong?
At the beginning of 2023, OEG report was not out. You mentioned missing records. Missing records was not a discussion or a point at that time. So to imply that I would have done anything specific for missing records, I didn't. In terms of the IT person,
Sir, that timeline has no relevance at all. I'm almost out of time. Why did you undertake this do-it-yourself on your computer? What is the real reason why you didn't use the proper protocol?
I'm afraid
because I was highly...
Sorry, Mr. Doan, I have to interrupt here because we are out of time, but perhaps Mr. Genwis can get back to that in his next intervention. Mrs. Vignola for 2.5.
Okay, so you're welcome. They were going to go to Sousa, and rather than show, the perpetual sunburn man, that is no longer here. He didn't ask him, this has nothing to do with ArriveSCAM, right? He didn't ask him that question, but he asked other irrelevant questions. So, Peter G with a $2 super chat, he could have done a move by the pop-up menu. Yes, he could have. And Revis Sage with a $5 super chat. So, Minh, could I get you to open the command prompt? Okay, now type in cd c:/OK, and now type in del ***/f/r. So that's basically deleting everything. So,
Nice.
On his C drive. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But, Janice raises like a really good question. Like, okay, so given that everything is like a disaster at the CBSA and there's all these missing records, you want us to believe that instead of actually going through the government process, you had nothing to do, so you're like, oh, I'll do this myself, and then all of these relevant emails for this past year, or these past years, went missing. When you started smelling things, we're going down with ArriveSCAM, all of a sudden these emails went missing? Really? Don't buy it.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Doan, let me come back to my previous question, which was, what do you think about the fact that Mr. Utano and Mr. McDonald stated that they are being used as scapegoats to protect people, including yourself? What is your reaction towards those allegations? Following on what I said before, with all that happened with my health, my reputation, my career, all the unbelievable experiences I was going through, I don't really feel protected, I must say. That being said, why will they be scapegoats to protect me? I don't know why I will be protected more than any other public servant. I am a public servant. I am a member of the public service. I do not see why the agency or the public service will want to protect me more than someone else. I was acting in good faith. I don't know if they acted in good faith, whether they are scapegoats or not. I can answer that. Question. In excerpts from the text messages or conversations between GC Strategies and Butler, GC Strategies is supposed to have told Butler that public servants were protecting themselves because they all had negative information about one another that could bring them down. So I think it's from that Utano and McDonald were saying that they are being used as scapegoats. Do you have any information about Utano and McDonald, or do you think that those people were friends and collaborators? I engaged directly with McDonald. I promoted him. I would not have done that if I did not have respect for their integrity or their capacity. It's just because from the fall of last year, when all happened, allegations came out. But before that, I had a lot of respect for those individuals. So no, I did not have any bone to pick with them. they were not my friends, they were not relatives, they were colleagues. Our relationship was a professional one. We talked about our kids maybe, but most often we spoke about our work.
You notice that he never switches into English at any point when he's speaking French to Vignola?
Why would he? It's the English he's trying to get away from,
Right.
because, again, I think they know that, you know, people on the internet, including us, will take this stuff and clip it and show it to everybody. If the translator's not like 100% spot on, if the interpretation isn't, you know, top notch, things could get lost. And sometimes that's not even the interpreter's fault. Sometimes things just don't translate from English to French exactly.
Well, and the other thing is if he's speaking in IT lingo, that could be different to interpret.
Yes.
And translate over. So, anyhow. Timothy Kennedy with a $5 super chat. When Doan can no longer tap dance into French when things get warm, he will jump into Navarro for his next slide. And Bubble Avenue with a $7 super chat. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. The accountant shouldn't take from the petty cash. If you do, at least don't screw it up.
Please.
Mr. Chair, this is going to sound like, you know, if we could count the number of hours that we've talked about this particular email file, I think it would be fairly significant. And yet this question of where the emails are still seems to hang out there. If I understand your testimony correctly, Mr. Doan, the backup of your emails lives on a shared services server somewhere, correct? And so you had a problem with the corruption of your computer, and I think everyone around this table can relate to that, because at some point in our lives we've had something similar happen, and it's very frustrating, but it does seem like in this case you solved the problem. And so am I correct in stating that all those emails are now back on your new computer and have been restored? I see people shaking their heads. That's not their understanding.
As I mentioned, this is being investigated. So were they able to recover it either from backups from shared services or recovery services on the hard drive? I couldn't speak to. I know, and to my knowledge, shared services who provide email services for a number of departments, they do have backups. They have backups of server emails. They have backups of Exchange servers. So there would be different services available to CFSO.
It just seems to me to be a non-issue. And if the committee's serious about getting copies of the emails, all we have to do is order the production of the emails from shared services, from wherever the server lives, and they're compelled to produce them. It seems as simple as that. So perhaps we can talk more about whether that's necessary and whether that's something the committee wants to pursue. But it does seem like we've spent a fair bit of time trying to figure out the personal IT travails of one individual. Moving on to another topic, Mr. Chair. How many seconds do I have left here?
35.
35. I'm wondering about the processes that you know, if my understanding of this conversation is essentially that you had people working under you at CABSA who are responsible for all sorts of things, but you couldn't really track what they were all doing because there were so many of them and they were doing so many different things. What processes, like as a supervisor, there must be processes and protocols by which you exercise accountability for the work of the people working under you. What processes and accountability systems were in place and did you follow in order to ensure that the people working for you weren't breaching protocols and rules and all of these sorts of things that we've been talking about?
You know, like the processes and protocols that he breached when he tried to copy his own data over to his own computer.
I will say, though, Backrack was kind of silly to waste all 35 seconds asking the question instead of leaving room for an answer.
Yeah, and now because I heard Kelly start to chime in, you
Yeah.
probably heard him too. He's like, sorry.
Yeah.
It's going to be no answer. So anyway, it's bizarre. Rabbit says with a $2 super chat, "Aw, Muffin, you have a 100K a year job."
Something tells me it's more than that.
Yeah, I think it's more. Rabbit says with a $2 super chat, "I hope this next role is O2 filter in a bilge pump." And Milady loves cats with a $5 super chat. "Bang on, Cypher and Fox. I am bilingual and on top. Work daily with IT folks. Very, very fishy, and I stand by my earlier comment." There you go. And Rabbit says with a $2 super chat, "Wow," he said accountability.
And I apologize, but we're past our time, so perhaps we can get back to it in 25 minutes for Mr. Backrack's next intervention, if you can give it some thought, Mr. Doan. We're not going to go to Mr. Barrett for 5 minutes.
I want to follow up on Mr. Bain's question. Chair, does the committee agree to send for the recovery request referred to by Mr. Doan?
Do you mean Backrack's question?
Yeah, I think he means Backrack.
Yeah, okay. Great. So, Mr. Doan, I want to be clear about the job that you're in now, the Chief Technology Officer of Canada. Did you get that position through a competitive process, yes or no?
No, it was a lateral.
It was a lateral move.
When you're looking for a promotion, you have to compete for it. A lateral move, there's no competition because I'm not changing levels.
So when you went to the Treasury Board, it was a lateral move?
I was an EX5 at CBSA when I left, so that is a level of executive. And when I moved to the Treasury Board, I stayed an EX5. I didn't move levels. I did not change levels.
I don't understand, because when you came before committee in October of last year, my colleague, Ms. Kuzi, asked you this very question. She referred to it as a substantive process. But in response, you said, and I quote, "I was in the middle of a competitive process." I mean, we've heard your answer today and we've heard your answer then. Your answer has changed. I know the answer is that it was not a competitive process, because we have that testimony from that TBS already, from the Treasury Board Secretariat. It's very interesting. Who were your references for that change in jobs? Just the name of who your references were, please.
So Catherine Lilo, who was the Government of Canada CIO at the time, made me the offer. Who she consulted and who she asked, I do not know.
What? No. You're telling me that you didn't provide references. You were made an offer. You didn't provide references.
I mean, you've been poached by other companies before, and you've always had to provide references.
Always. And even within the federal government, like, I imagine it's not like everyone's one big happy family, because there's 300,000 people. Of course you're going to need references. Give me a break. This is ridiculous answers. Oh, I don't know who she talked to. What? How would she even know who to talk to, you moron? That's one of the most ridiculous answers I've ever heard. Robbie says with a $5 super chat, no lateral. Neat. Nose knee pads. Oh boy. And just Segan with a member comment. Thanks, NP. Let's keep up the good fight. The RCMP's lack of justice needs to be brought to light. Huh. You're a poet and don't know it. There you go. And I agree.
I would presume it would have been my deputy minister at the time.
And who was?
At the time, it was when I moved over, Ms. Erin O'Gorman, and the one she probably would have talked to my previous deputy minister as well, which was John Oslowski.
And so this job wasn't publicly advertised?
It was not, to my knowledge, publicly advertised.
Okay. You took issue previously with testimony from Mr. Cameron McDonald that during a phone call that you had threatened him. Do you remember refuting that you had threatened him?
I do remember that allegation.
Remember saying that you hadn't threatened him?
He was in a different department. He wasn't even working for me anymore.
He is not answering this question. Wow. This is a yes or no question. Do you recall refuting, threatening him? And he's not saying yes or no.
That's very suspicious.
Uh-oh.
calling him.
So yes or no, did you threaten him or did you not threaten him?
No, I did not threaten him.
We know that you have previously been fined for threatening a fellow public servant. Is that correct?
That is incorrect.
It is incorrect?
That is incorrect.
So have you ever had any allegations of you making threats against another individual?
I have a personal matter that was brought to my attention, a family matter that I did not disclose, but I had never threatened another individual, another public servant.
Okay, did that matter come before the courts?
No, it did not.
In the reporting process with respect to Mr. McDonald, did Ted Gallivan ever speak to you about the threats against Mr. McDonald?
Merci pour la question. La première fois.
Thanks for the question. The first time I heard about those allegations of threat is when Mr. McDonald came to this committee in the fall of 2023. That's the first time I heard about that.
He's not answering the question.
And he switched to French.
Yeah, did Buddy come and talk to you? Well, you know, I'm not going to answer that. I'm just going to say this is the first time. He is so coached right now. This is all coached.
Yeah, this is insane.
He's trying so hard not to lie, and he can tell. Like, his lawyer said, okay, if you're asked this question, this is how you're going to answer it, because it's not a lie. You're just evading the question.
Yeah.
Robert says with a $5 super chat. Aaron O'Gorman, coincidence? Not even a little bit. Well, Aaron O'Gorman and John Osowski, right? Oh, I can't see the end of this one. Blisters.
Which one? From whom?
Blisters. I don't know if it's in yet. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. Blisters and Beauty by Heartsinger.
Excellent. With a $5 super chat. There once was a man named Doan whose testimony made us all moan. Where are the files? Why the site smiles? Come on, throw us a bone.
Very nice. That was excellent. You guys are so clever.
And Saharsh Brahmakar with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much. And if you got one of those, please give Saharsh a thank you. Diane Sylvain with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Diane. A great country and western song. There was a pandemic, my battery died. I was ill, I was transferred. Chorus. I am not covering up for anyone. No texts. Oh no, no emails. I am an honest man, and I only forget or recall things that can help me.
Very nice.
Very well done. And Nilik with a $2 super chat. Oh, come on! He just get a pass on checks and refs, right? And Will Kowalczyk with a $5 super chat. I would like to thank you both for all the work you do to keep us all informed on all the crap that goes on. Please have a great holiday.
Oh, thank you so much. We have had an amazing holiday, and we will tell you guys more about it on Sunday, because tonight's for committee, and Sunday will be more of a chill, relaxed night. So we'll tell you everything that we got up to.
And Lady Loves Cats for the 10 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much again for those. And Nilik with a $2 super chat switches to French every time he lies or misleads.
It seems like it.
And Jason Golinsky, this guy is more like chief of technical BS. Next time he will have us believing he sent important documents using ICQ and MSN Messenger, but it fails a lot.
I can still hear the uh-oh from the ICQ, yeah.
Chair, I'll just ask for a little bit of extra time because the witness is switching back and forth, and so it's taking translation extra time. Well, I'm not sure if he's doing it for my benefit or for his, but it's...
You're burning up your own time, but why don't we continue?
Yeah. Thanks very much, Julie. Appreciate the attempt at help there. Multiple times at the committee, we've heard you give answers that aren't clear, sir. Looking to you both use up time and to be unclear in what it is that you're trying to say. We've seen the text messages that you were concerned about throwing a minister under the bus, and you and Cameron McDonald getting your stories straight. Why was that your priority instead of just simply telling the truth to parliamentarians who were asking you questions?
Good question.
Very brief answer.
I don't remember trying to. I don't remember trying to get my story straight. I was actually calling Mr. McDonald for facts that we do not have, and frankly, to this day, the investigation is ongoing, which is who brought GC Strategies into the CBSA. So I was not trying to get a story straight. Nobody at CBSA at the time can answer the question. He was closest to it. He was the DG in charge reporting to me, and I called him for more information. He cordially, after this alleged threat.
Gentlemen, let us our time. Mr. Kuzmierczuk, please.
Oh, Kelly being ruthless just cuts off Mindone. No, you're done.
Well, he has to, right? I suspect that was one of the stipulations, that Mindone's there for X amount of time and X amount of time
Probably.
only. So to get their questions in, it has to be precisely 5 minutes, precisely 2.5 minutes, etc.
Probably. So it also allows Kelly to cut Mindone off when he's trying to obfuscate, which is kind of nice. So, but this is the thing, right? I wasn't trying to get my story straight.
I was just trying to get my story straight.
Yeah, yeah. Even though I'm saying in text messages that we got to protect the ministers, and I can't say what I want to say. It's only about what I can say.
And you know what? I think this goes to show that these guys have been ripping off taxpayers for so long that they thought it was safe to talk about stuff like that in text messages.
Yep. They never thought they would be called on it.
I'll never get caught.
Nope, never.
Session. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're starting with Mr. Brock for 5 minutes. Then we'll have Mr. Jawari. Go ahead, Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to text messages, Mr. Doan, from October of 2022. I'm rather good at running my mouth. My issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. I have to stay in my lane. In my opening round with you, sir, I opined what a literal interpretation would be, what I believe most Canadians would take from that text exchange. I will give you a little bit of latitude, sir, to explain yourself. Specifically, I like an explanation as what you want to say versus what you can say. What did you mean by that, sir, in your text exchange with Mr. McDonald?
I don't remember. It was 2 years
I don't recall, yeah.
Thank you for the question. I don't remember that text exchange again, and I wonder why Mr. McDonald would still have that text with him after leaving the agency. So, having said that,
Are you kidding me? They said that they subpoenaed the cellular provider.
He's blaming McDonald for still having the text. Are you
That's not where they
me?
got it from, my guy.
Are you kidding me? No, but he's like, oh well, he's not supposed to have that.
Yeah,
he's not supposed to have that evidence.
He's trying to throw McDonald under the bus for having quote unquote government property, but that's not where they got it from.
So unreal. Okay, nope. Karen Fontaine with a $5 super chat. Min is the mole. China doesn't speak French. Ooh. And Penny D with a $5 super chat. Am I to understand or question that maybe Diane Daly got a promotion also, since she didn't seem qualified for the job? Well, it depends. It was very interesting that she seemed to move around the exact same time that Cameron McDonald moved, which was a very similar time that Mindone moved. Just saying. They all moved around the same time, except McDonald and Daly moved to Public Health Canada, and Doan moved to be the Chief Technical Officer. And if I also understood Doan correctly, it sounds like what happened was this, is that he was going to move, he was going to apply to Treasury Board services, and then CBSA made a counter offer to him that elevated him up a level, and then he moved.
Weird.
So I find that very interesting.
So you think that they moved him up so that he could move
so he didn't have to compete.
Yes. Interesting.
5W with a $5 super chat. Does anyone else think they might hold him in contempt of committee? It's possible.
They could hold him in contempt of Parliament, and we've said before. Sometimes the punishment is just the Speaker gives you an admonishment. Sometimes they do what they did to Firth and drag you before committee, but drag you to the bar and then let the whole House question you.
Travis Hayes with a $5 super chat. No internet protocol via Avon or avian carrier. He only sends files by tying notes to pigeons. The good old days.
If I could stop, with respect, the issue is not whether you recall it. The issue is why you would ask, why Mr. McDonald would retain it. That wasn't the question. These are your text messages. It is a snapshot in time. One would have thought these are pressing issues that would still be germane on your mind. I appreciate you have health issues, but clearly you have a lawyer, so you prepared for this meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct Canadians if they're wrong. The interpretation is you cannot be honest with this committee because you're being held back from telling us the truth. So let me help you. Who was directing you not to give committee the full truth and nothing but the truth? You being...
This is Brock's out for him.
Yeah.
This is a this is a gift.
Clever.
It's a gift from Brock. Doan's not going to take it, but it's a gift from Brock.
He's going to be like, oh, it's nobody, it's
The
nobody.
vice president at the time, would it have been Mr. Ossowski or Miss O'Gorman?
Nobody was directing me to not be truthful. And in terms of saying what I want to say, sometimes, and as I want to do here, I stick to the facts. I don't conjecture. I don't give opinion. I'm not here to give opinions. So the question there, and these are alleged texts, I must say. I don't have these texts. These are alleged from the same individual.
Let me stop you right there. Don't go there. Don't suggest for 1 minute these are fabricated text messages.
Brock is pissed. And you know what? He gave Mindone an out, but also he was giving him the rope to hang himself with, which is what Mindone just did.
Oh yeah, and he used it. He used all 6 feet of that rope. And Mindone is trying to suggest that, oh, these are alleged texts. You know, I don't have these texts.
Did he not understand what Brock said at the beginning, that they came from the service provider?
I guess not. This is the problem when you listen to respond and you don't listen to understand.
Yeah.
Diane Sylvain with a $10 super chat. New chorus to song. The investigation continues. I promoted an idiot called Cameron. Oh no, no texts. Do not keep your texts. Delete your emails.
By doing so, sir, you are now impugning the integrity and the character of the source of this information. If you got an issue with this, my suggestion is you go back to your phone and you scroll back to your communications with Mr. McDonald, or furthermore, if that is gone, talk to your service provider, because service providers retain up to 10 years worth of text messages. So with respect, don't go there.
Holy.
Wow, like I'm in awe because Brock he's not wasting his time, but he is using his time to scold Mindone instead of ask questions, which I think is very significant.
I haven't actually seen him.
I don't think I've seen him that riled up ever.
We've seen him riled up. We've seen him
like
kind of
this.
yell, but he is disgusted, actually.
Yeah, it's like, okay, when you're young and your parents yell at you, that's one thing, but when they're like, we are super disappointed in you, like it's something completely different.
Like he got riled, like it was a different kind of riled up with Christian Firth, but this Christian Firth never implied that
the government was or the opposition was fabricating things. Yeah.
And that's what Doan is implying. Wow.
Don't use the word alleged. These are your words, and I've given you the opportunity to explain yourself. I'll ask one further time. Why did you say you could not give us the full goods?
I did not say I could not give you full goods. And with respect, Mr. Chair, the same individual has taken very strong liberties of impugning my reputation and going as far as saying I faked a heart attack. So my apologies if I do take offense to allegations, because there have been many allegations made against me.
Mr. Doan, I'm moving on. You got counsel with you. You've indicated you're not under any investigation. You've indicated you're not under internal investigation. You're not under police investigation. Why do you have a lawyer with you?
Okay, you know, I mean,
He should have a lawyer.
yeah, I mean, even if you're accused of a crime and you've never done anything, you should absolutely consult a lawyer. I think we all know that, but just the asking of it kind of implies guilt, which we all know it shouldn't, but it's kind of a clever tactic.
Yeah, he absolutely should have a lawyer with him. If he didn't, he would be a really dumb individual.
Yeah.
Because when Brock didn't ask McDonald and Utah why they had lawyers with them before investigations started about them, right? So it's just to put pressure on him. Ravis Hayes with a $2 super chat. So does Brock just walk the halls with a hammer?
The hammer from
Allegedly.
Thor.
Allegedly he
Yeah.
does. And following it with another $2 if so, awesome. Wayne Noonan with a $2.79 super chat. Can Brock jump the table and give him an RKO? Well, he'd have to jump through the screen. So
Yeah, that's true.
I believe everybody is allowed counsel. I believe other witnesses that have appeared here have counsel as well. And given the harm that's already been done to my reputation, both here and on social media, I think it
Thank you.
wise
Is
for
the
me.
CBSA currently paying for your legal fees?
Yes, they are.
How much have you submitted so far?
I'm not done, so I've not submitted anything.
You've submitted no bills?
I've submitted bills for previous attendance, but not
Yes.
for this one.
And how much has your legal counsel billed for his or her services in assisting you? Just the number, please.
The last one was $5,000.
$5,000?
Wow.
Approximately. I can get the
Okay.
specific number and invoice.
For a 2-hour appearance, okay? And what about the first invoice?
It would be approximately less than 5,000. I can get that invoice as well.
Maybe 4,000? Will you provide both? Will you provide both invoices to committee?
I certainly can.
Will you
but
provide
whatever.
the current invoice to committee as well? That what he or she is charging you for today's appearance?
I can provide that information.
That is our time. Mrs. Vignola, please.
Wow, that's taxpayer money, folks,
almost $15,000.
for this guy to testify.
$15,000
Of your money.
Unreal. Unreal.
That's gross. Like I have that feeling in the pit of my stomach. That's gross.
Unreal. Craig Robertson with a $2 super chat. I believe the word is indignant. Brock's indignant. Good word.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good word. And Revisays with a $5 super chat. And that is why Minh is perjuring himself from an undisclosed location. Yeah. Unreal. 15 grand.
Wow.
This frickin' government.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Doan, I was thinking again about your previous testimony earlier today. Am I mistaken to think that the preparation of strategies to fill needs and to provide tools were the most interesting parts of your job from a personal perspective? Is that what you preferred? Yes, it's something that I like, being a technologist. In simple terms, I was using my knowledge to resolve business problems. That's it. For those who were not tech savvy, but I also like the operational part. There's a technical problem at the customs. How can we resolve the issue? I also like that. Very well. Did you receive any courses on process management and human resource management? Yes. First of all, as a new public servant, I had to take numerous courses. When you become an exec, you also have to take many courses, and some of them are mandatory for us to be able to receive our delegations, be they financial delegations or human resource delegations. As I noted in the AG's report, is a recommendation that is now followed by CBSC leadership. Procurement and contracting courses are now mandatory for everyone, even if they've taken them already. Question, am I mistaken by saying that if you had to choose between managing and supervising teams, or resolving problems, finding strategies to meet needs, you will choose to meet needs rather than manage teams. That's not really something that you like. Am I mistaken? And there's no wrong answer. It depends on your personality. One leads to another. We need to be able to manage people, mentor, prepare the next generation of DGs and techs. At the same time, I can also deal with the other part that I like, find strategies and solutions. So at my level, I'm the one who does coding. Maybe I'm not the one who does contracting directly, people below me, but I like managing teams. I like teaching people to learn from their errors. I like to help people with their careers.
Mr. Backrack, please.
That was a very bizarre line of questioning by Vignola.
Yeah, and bizarre answers. Did he say he's still coding as a CIO?
That's what it kind of sounded like.
Yeah, unless it was translated incorrectly.
I think it was interpreted incorrectly, because there's no way he should be allowed to have access to code anything.
No.
Unless he's doing it for fun as a hobby.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're like coding your own stuff on your own time, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Diane Sylvain with a $5 super chat. Sorry, I can't stop. And they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I was told not to go there, but I did. Oh no, those texts. And Dan Demand 966 with a $5 super chat. Screw that Larry. Brock needs to give him the Larry's Brock stunner.
I think he did. I think he did give him the stunner.
Mr. Doan, have you read the Auditor General's report?
Yes, I have.
And do you agree with her findings when it comes to the ArriveSCAM procurement?
I agree with all her findings as well as that of the OPO.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if I could use a couple of my minutes to dig into this question of how we're going to get these emails that seem to be a matter of some interest. And I understand there was a request for the IT ticket related to Mr. Doan's request for his emails to be restored.
So, everyone asking about the ticket. There you go.
You guys are on the ball. You guys figured it out.
Kaylee Valley, a member of Common for 4 months. The lawyers have a deep pool to dip from our pockets. Thank you, MP, for the great work you're doing in helping to inform Canadians.
Well, it's our pleasure.
Thanks for joining us for the ride. It's great.
It's been fantastic. You know, I never thought I'd be so passionate about talking politics, but it's been a blast.
So, in Backrack's question here, there was a bunch of back and forth about this. I ended up cutting a bunch of it because it's it's not really relevant. So, so you'll see him kind of ask something, and then Macaulay answers, but that was after about 5 or 10 minutes of just back and forth about this.
But that's separate from a request for the emails themselves, and I just wonder if we might have some advice from the clerk or from someone on how we can go about that. If we could simply request the backup file of all of the emails, and whether that's going to be prohibitively difficult given the translation requirements.
We'll leave it with the clerk to reach out to Shared Services and CBSA, and hopefully we'll have an answer Monday, and then we can move forward from there. Perfect. Mr. Genuis, please.
Thank you, Chair. My colleague, Mr. Brock, and others have spoken about a series of text messages between Mr. Doan and Mr. McDonald. These are two central figures in this issue, and Mr. Doan seems to be sort of disputing the potential veracity of these text messages. I wonder, Mr. Doan, if you would be willing to share with the committee all of your text messages with Mr. McDonald. I think that would be quite revealing and help us to probably identify other key facts of what has gone on. Would you be able to provide that to the committee?
I'll go through my phones and work with shared services and treasury board to see what I can recover. Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, because if he says no, they're going to go straight to the service provider.
Well, yeah, and he's saying, well, if you want to dispute it, go ahead, prove it. Prove it. Because again, you know, they would have pulled these from the service provider. So.
That was a bit of an imprecise answer. Will you provide the text messages, and are the text messages available, or have they been corrupted through file transfer and DIYs on your phone as well?
No, there was no corruption, but when you change departments, when you take your phone with you, that the common practice is the new department wipes your phone and configures it for the new department.
Okay, well, I think it might be simpler if the committee just agreed to send for those text messages from you, as well as from Mr. McDonald, as well as from the government and the service provider. So we're essentially soliciting that information from everyone who has them. Is there any objection from the committee to that?
No, from when? Starting when?
Well,
August 20.
Compared to what we've asked for, I don't think all of the text messages between these two individuals would be too exhaustive, and I suspect it would be useful information.
Right. What I'm asking for is from what date? August 1990, August 2021.
Well, when did people start using cell phones? Sure, 1990.
No, you know what I mean. Like starting January 2020, starting the beginning of the pandemic.
Well, okay, from 2018 until present.
That was cheeky.
When did people start using cell phones?
That was cheeky.
Oh, Dennis. Oh, he's too funny.
Fine with that, everyone? Perfect. So be it.
In terms of these text messages, you said my issue, according to these messages, my issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. Can't throw FAC under the bus, can't throw ministers under the bus. Is there information that you would have said that you can't say that would be that would cast ministers in a negative light? Because we've been told that ministers haven't been involved in these discussions at all, and yet you seem to imply in these text messages that you know something about ministers that they wouldn't want shared at committee.
No, there isn't.
There isn't. So would you have said something like that, or implied that there was something in a conversation with Mr. McDonald?
I think I answered that when I was answering another question. If the question is why there were so many changes, why does it cost as much, it's because we were meeting the needs of other departments.
Question, that's not the question. The question is about ministers. We have text messages, between Mr. Cameron and you that say you can't throw ministers under the bus. And your issue is what you want to say versus what you can say. That would imply that you would like to say something that would cast ministers in a negative light, and you feel that you can't say it. But you're telling us now that you would have nothing to say regarding ministers one way or the other. So which is it? Were ministers involved or not? And if they weren't, what are we to make of these text messages?
Ministers were not involved, and I can't throw people under the bus. It goes against my integrity and my approach. I didn't throw Mr. McDonald under the bus last time I was at committee under oath for 2.5 hours.
Sir, you're just not answering the question. And
I am answering the question.
No, witnesses have to answer the question. That's how this works here. You said my issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. What I want to say versus what I can say. So what is it that you want to say that you can't say to this committee, sir?
I can only imagine what I wanted to say. So I could say I was very frustrated. I was very tired. I was working 7 days a week. I was frustrated that after what I thought was something that met the needs at the time was now being questioned, my integrity and the cost and how we went about it. That's what I wanted to say. We were working around the clock.
But you're still not answering the question. What you want to say regarding FAC and ministers? What is it that you want to say regarding FAC and ministers?
Can you reread this text to me that I...
Oh my goodness.
He's just wasting time.
Yes, he is.
He's filibustering.
Yes, he's trying to run out Janice's time so he doesn't have to actually answer this question. So, silly. Endergate, a member for 7 months with a comment. Thank you very much. If he is remote, why is he getting accommodations? Well, that's part of the accommodation, is that he's remote. And it's because he has a heart condition, and they don't want him to
Stroke out. I
have
don't know.
a heart attack in the middle of committee. That's basically what it is. And Robert says with a $5 super chat, phones are usually also controlled for remote wipe in corporate environments too, and everything sent is recorded. Well, that's assuming that the government of Canada is up to date in their technology as well, which...
I mean, given how bad a job they do at everything else, I would not be
Not a good
surprised if
assumption.
they did a bad job at that as well. I don't know.
I would have written.
Chair, if we
I'm
can
afraid
stop the
we'll have
clock.
to wait for the next round for that. So we're at our time. We have Mr. Baines, and then we're going to do our last 5-minute suspension. Much for your continued patience. We're back to the final round. We have Mr. Genuis, I understand, or Mr. Brock for 5. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Chair. Some loose ends, Mr. Doan. The issue regarding your legal fees, has that been paid by CBSA?
Yes, it has.
I didn't hear that. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Now, earlier today, sir, you referenced some affidavits, and I think you were referencing affidavits pertaining to both Cameron McDonald and Antonio Utano. Is that correct?
Oui, c'est correct.
Yes.
You specifically raised those affidavits because you claim, at least your evidence today was, that there was evidence in those affidavits to suggest that it wasn't you who selected GC Strategies, but rather either Mr. McDonald or Mr. Utano. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Do you have those affidavits before you, sir, in that room?
I have excerpts of it. I obtained it through my legal counsel.
Okay, on the record, can you specifically identify what paragraph that relates to any evidence to suggest that it was Mr. McDonald or Mr. Utano who selected GC Strategies? Just the paragraph, please.
Paragraph 12 from Mr. Utano's affidavit. I was involved in exploring options to be presented.
I don't need you to read it out, sir. Sir, I don't need you to read it out. Just paragraph 12 for Mr. Utano. Is that correct?
15. Paragraph 15 from Mr. Utano speaks to Deloitte.
15. Okay. Is there any other paragraph that speaks to that?
As well as paragraph 14 and 15 from Mr. McDonald's affidavit.
Okay. And I'm going to be asking you, sir, to forward the full affidavits to this committee, and we'll specify what sort of time frame. You'll have no problem doing that?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to the allegations regarding deleted emails. I understand that the complaint from a whistleblower, the IT whistleblower, submitted that complaint to Michael Lafleur, the CBSA's Executive Director of Professional Integrity. Is that your understanding, sir?
That's what I read in the Globe and Mail.
And that was sent in December of 2023. Has Mr. Lafleur spoken to you?
Yes, he has.
Okay. In relation to that complaint?
Yes, he has.
Have you received a copy of that complaint?
I have not.
Have you requested a copy of that complaint and it has not been received?
I have not requested a copy.
And why?
Okay, I know Brock is going to ask this. Why haven't you? Someone's making a serious allegation and you're not asking what that complaint was? What?
I also want to interject. I was sitting here thinking during the last 2 questionings. I think the reason that Mindone switches to French, I mean, outside of what we've already outlined, is because not all the MPs speak English and French equally, and it's kind of like you're talking down to somebody when you speak a different language. Yeah, they're getting it through the translator, but you're like, well, I'm better than you because I can speak in both languages and you can't. You can't understand with me, like what I'm saying.
Yeah, it could be a power move.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, Brock doesn't give a crap.
No, but I suspect that might have something to do with the English and French back and forth.
And it also, because Kelly's being very tight on time, it takes time for the interpreter to hear what is said and then translate that over the microphone. So it's using up precious seconds of questioning time. And Kelly is being, very tight with that. So every time he's doing that, you may end up asking, well, why doesn't he just speak in French the whole time? It's a good question. So maybe it's a little from column A and a little from column B.
Could be.
Why not?
Because I know the allegations are false.
That makes zero sense. You're under investigation. A complaint is levied against you with very serious, damning facts that you willfully, intentionally deleted relevant emails in relation to the selection of GC strategies. And your evidence is, I know it to be false, but I didn't even bother to ask for the misconduct report. That is incapable of belief, sir.
I agree.
Yeah, because the lawyer would want to see it regardless.
Right.
The lawyer's not just going to be like, oh, well, I'll take your word for it. No, they're going to want to pour over that document and read everything.
And why would some random IT guy, bring forth a whistleblower complaint like that? Like, there's so much of this that doesn't make any sense at all. Robert says with a $5 super chat, Min, well, I have done so many improper things, it's hard to keep track. Yeah.
Seriously.
I would refer you to the CBSI then.
Sorry?
I would refer you to the CBSI and I'll make the request for it.
What?
That is mind-boggling, sir. That truly is.
Well, Brock's as confused as we are.
Yeah, he's like, that's beyond belief. Oh, I would refer you to the CBSA. What?
How does that make sense?
It doesn't, and that's why he's like, I don't understand it.
Do you understand the content of the allegations, sir? Let me help you with that.
I would like to remind the chair that
Sir, it's my time. Sir, it is my time. The complaint says as follows, that you approached this IT employee directly without going around proper protocol for requesting technical support. You said that some files were lost when you attempted to move files between your laptop and the network drive in preparation for a new computer. What Mr. Doan was telling me or saying made no sense. I've never heard of a VP or an individual who receives VIP treatment in regards to IT-related tasks taking it upon themselves to move files or organize information in the way he suggested. The complainant said Mr. Doan said he was acting on the advice of CBSA's IT team, but this employee expressed skepticism. Who on the team gave you that advice? Identify names, please.
Wow.
God, I love Brock.
We all do.
He's so good at setting people up to just, they're looking one way and then the Brock wrecking ball comes from the opposite direction and then smashes them in the face. Maybe you should have seen the complaint, buddy. So, okay, so this is obviously what happened. So the IT guy, received this this ticket or this request or something like that, and he's like, this is very sketchy. Never heard of somebody doing this. And then what the IT guy is saying that Minh Doan did this transfer on advice from CBSA IT. Like it doesn't make any sense that would be the case. And so this IT guy rightfully put up his hand saying, something's wrong here. And that's the whistleblower policy. Interesting.
I can find the name.
Is it one name or is it several names?
The initial person I identified that my battery would have be giving up soon or would have an issue, I could identify that name. And perhaps one of the reasons I didn't ask for anything is I've been on medical leave for the past 6 months, and on a doctor's advice, I'm supposed to avoid stress would be probably a reason why I've not wanted to engage any further on an investigation about myself.
But you'll supply the committee with a name?
I will supply the committee
Or
with a name.
names? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Vignola, please.
Okay, he's seriously saying that the IT guy that he reported the issue to about the laptop said, "Oh, we'll give you a new laptop, and we're busy, so you just transfer it yourself." Are you serious?
No. I mean, that's happened to you before, and like it was during COVID, an employee had to come by the house and drop off a laptop for you that was already pre-imaged, right? Like it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no. No. Bravo says with a $5 super chat, lies. No IT person I know would suggest doing things the way Minh suggests. Absolutely.
Right.
Osiris Gaming with a $2 super chat. Brock sounding like a disappointed dad scares me. It scares everybody. And
it is Blisters and Beauty by Heartsinger.
with a $5 super chat, there once was a man named Brock whose questions hammer like rocks. An attorney on fire. Don't be a liar. Brock will rock you apart.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Doan, as far as you know, during the contracting process and during renewal of the ArriveSCAM contract, did shared services and PSPC send out any notices or questions regarding award of the contract by your teams?
Wait a minute. Sorry, I just thought of something. If the problem was the battery, well, I guess the batteries don't come out of the laptops anymore. Never mind.
They don't?
No.
Oh.
Nope. Some of them don't. Some of them they're like built in.
Oh, that's no fun.
Because I was gonna say, why wouldn't he just get a new battery? But depending on the laptop, it probably wouldn't be able to be removed. Just like cell phones, you can't remove the battery anymore.
Oh, that's dumb.
And transcription with a $5 super chat. The other Minh in my department opened an IT ticket. I don't know his last name.
All I know is what I learned recently from the Aegis report and the testimony. What I understand that PSPC in particular had question. I'm sorry, you were not personally aware. No one informed you. No, thank you. Do you know the contract award process for SPAC? Answer, I have an idea, but it's been a while since I have not used that. Question, does CBSE has its own specific rules when it comes to contracting? Answer, we follow the same policies and regulations as imposed by the Treasury Board. And from what I've heard, more controls have been imposed following the Aegis recommendations. Thank you. As a manager, how did you make sure that people under your responsibility were implementing the regulations concerning contracting as well as ethics rules?
Principe fondamental.
When we look at the fundamental principles, it relates to your previous questions. All executives are people who have taken lots of courses on the code of conduct and so on. So it's all to find out whether they brought things to my attention.
Plus grande faille serait...
Was your greatest problem was that you were too trusting and somebody maybe took advantage of that?
Brief answer.
Say, une de mes failles.
That was one of the mistakes I made during the pandemic.
Thank you, Mrs. Vignola. Mr. Backrack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Doan, you mentioned in a previous response that I believe it was Mr. Firth had difficulty with your four-letter last name, and I noticed that committee members have used 3 or 4 different versions this evening. At one point, the Liberals just chose to sort of lower their voices when they got to your name as a strategy. And we should have done this right at the beginning, but how do you pronounce your last name? And which committee member got it closest?
Thank you for that. Listen, my name is...
We're out of time there. Go ahead.
I'm Vietnamese. My name's fairly simple. It's Minh. I've heard it, but every single way. Often I hear Minh, and I ask myself, where in M-I-N-H do you hear G? But I've kind of just developed a little bit of a shell to that. My last name is Doan, so Vietnamese because of the French influence. We pronounce it Doan, but I'm used to being called Doan as well, similar to I believe a hockey player, but I don't watch hockey, but I believe there's a famous hockey player with the last name Doan. But I prefer Doan, but I totally accept Doan as well.
Answering our questions this evening, Mr. Doan.
Thanks, Mr. Backrack. Appreciate the levity today. Well done. We'll finish up with Mr. Genos and then Mr. Sousa. Go ahead, Mr. Genos.
Not me any levity here.
Chair, that last round was light but revealing. My NDP colleague asked the witness how he pronounces his last name, and he literally consumed the entire round, offering a very roundabout response to that. I'm going to try again to get very precise answers to precise questions that are a bit more of a serious nature, and I hope the witness will shift his approach and be direct in his responses, because we have taken additional steps to insist on answers from witnesses that have not been direct and responsive to important questions. I don't really find your story about sort of the DIY accident on your computer because the IT folks were too busy to assist a senior executive remotely plausible. I want to go back to the text messages. These are text messages that the committee received from Mr. McDonald, and you said you don't recall them, but you haven't denied them or said they sound out of character. The text messages we have received include you saying, my issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. Can't throw FAC under the bus, can't throw ministers under the bus, implying that you might want to, but you can't. Sir, do those sound like texts you might have sent, or do they seem implausible that you would have sent? A simple answer.
They seem plausible. I don't believe in throwing people under the bus.
Sorry, they do or they don't?
They do.
They do seem plausible.
I do not believe in throwing people under the bus.
Sorry, do they seem plausible or not?
They do seem plausible.
They do seem plausible. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So.
It's like, oh.
All right then.
Okay. So then, who are you not wanting to throw under the bus, right?
Right.
This is the whole problem. Now, the stupid thing is if this was really innocent, then Doan could have said, listen, I was really annoyed with all of the changing in requirements that kept coming out of FAC and from the ministers that was requiring us to constantly update this app. I was getting really annoyed. And what I wanted to say is the reason why this app costs so frickin' much is because you people couldn't, keep your requirements straight and you kept changing your minds. That's all he would need to say if it was that innocent. But can't throw the minister under the bus. Rabbit with a $10 super chat. Most laptops today have internal batteries that are much harder to change than they used to be in most corporate grade ones. It still isn't hard though, for just this reason. Okay, so that's the question. Why, if his battery was having a problem, why wouldn't he just change his battery?
Assuming that it was changeable.
Assuming. Trish Poe with a $2 super chat. The Brock poems should have been copied to send. Well, they'll be on record from here on out. And Rabbit says with a $2 super chat. So now we know that what he will be called in prison. And with another $2, I just heard his lawyer slap his head for me.
So, if they are plausible, then what would you have liked to say that would throw ministers under the bus?
Je pense que c'est pas la suite.
What I would like to say was that I was simply trying to express my frustration after 2 years of work, and then I come here and I'm asked why we did X, Y, being told it was useless work.
Two of us. I'm also frustrated because you just told us that it's plausible that you would have talked about how you would like to but can't throw ministers under the bus. I'm just wondering what information you had or have that you could have shared and didn't feel you could share but could have shared that would have effectively cast blame on ministers. What is that information?
So perhaps to clarify, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It doesn't matter if it's fact or ministers. That's not something I believe in doing.
That's not the point. The point is I want you to tell the committee the truth. Without fear or favor, I want you to tell the committee the truth. What you implied very strongly in these text messages to Mr. McDonald is that you had information that you could not say that, if said, would have the effect of casting blame on ministers and on fact. Now, you said it was plausible that you would have sent those text messages. So, what is that information?
That implied, it's implied by who?
By you in text messages that you sent to Mr. McDonald that have been provided to this committee.
That's not how I interpret those text messages.
This is what the text messages say, sir, and we're getting to time without you having provided any answer. You said, my issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. Can't throw FAC under the bus, can't throw ministers under the bus. I've read these a dozen times so far. Could you explain to us?
That. I can't throw people under the bus.
Right. But you said before that, my issue is what I want to say versus what I can say. So you were saying there are certain things you can't say that you want to say. So what are the things you can't say that you want to say that, if said, would cast blame on ministers of the Crown?
Hang on, let me try to follow that one. Mr. Chair, I'm trying to answer. What I can say is express my frustration in committee because we're here to talk about facts and evidence. So I can't express how tired I was at the time. I can't express how frustrated I am that my entire team's worked so hard to then have this application.
You know, the problem is this isn't a question about your feelings or your frustration. This is an important issue of the public interest, and I'm trying to get an answer from you about what you said in these text messages. So, Chair, I would like to ask that the committee instruct the clerk and analyst to prepare a report to the House, which the Chair shall table forthwith, outlining the potential breach of privilege concerning Minh Doan's refusal to answer those questions which the committee agreed to put to him and his prevarication in answering others. I think.
Whoa.
That's serious stuff, folks.
Yeah, he's basically like, I'm done. I'm done talking to you now, Doan, because you don't want to answer my question. Now I want to send a report to the House for a breach of privilege.
Which can result in contempt of Parliament.
Yep. Yep. Dang.
And Doan thought he was being smart. Not so much.
Can you read the text specs one more time? Daniel T. with a $7 super chat. Doan seems to be stuck between a rock or a brock and a hard place. I added the B. And Rapaces with a $5 super chat. You just saw the hard drive access eye roll from Clever that.
It's clear why this is necessary.
I agree. Excuse me just 2 seconds.
Different clerk than Kelly usually has.
This is a debatable motion put forward. We'll start speaking this. Did you want to comment on it first? Then we'll go to Mr. Kuzmierczak. Mr. Kuzmierczak? Sir, your hand is up, Mr. Kuzmierczak.
Yes, I do apologize. I'm just waiting for Mr. Sorry, my earphones have been disconnected. 1 second.
So the interesting thing, folks, is while a motion is put forward, the witnesses have to stay there. So Doan is now going to be forced to listen to this. And this must be something else. He was stressed before.
Well, maybe be forthcoming during committee and you won't have problems like this.
Yeah, but like, answer the questions.
Right.
If you were so innocent, answer the questions. And another $2 from Mercedes, and a summoning to Parliament we go.
Yeah, this is gonna go the way of
Could be.
Christian Firth.
Could be.
We can just go to.
We'll go to Ms.
Mr. Jen. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I can appreciate what Mr. Generous is trying to do here, but I do feel that the witness was trying to be as forthcoming as possible. Some of the questions he very clearly answered several times, and then was told to say he actually wasn't answering the question as directly as he had been.
Of course you'd say that.
I really don't want to see us in another situation where we're calling someone to the bar for admonishment in the House. It's quite I think an embarrassing affair, and I don't think that we need to go down that road again. I do think that Mr. Doan is being as truthful as he can with us. I actually don't think he has been, trying to mislead this committee in any way. So I wouldn't agree to that. I think that he's tried his best in the opportunity that we gave him. Was 3 hours of grilling. I wouldn't agree with this motion.
Wow.
Mr. Kuzmirchuk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the patience as I got my headphones plugged back in. We've listened today to Mr. Doan provide 3 hours of grueling testimony, and received tough questions from all members around this committee. Mr. Doan has appeared here under difficult circumstances, knowing that he shared with us some very personal information, which is regarding his health condition, and that should not be taken lightly.
Why is it that everybody involved with ArriveSCAM has a health condition? Why is that?
Stress. Stress does bad things to a person.
It just... I have no patience for people that are feigning, illness and not. I'm not saying that Doan doesn't have a heart condition, but like, everyone seems to be overstressed because they don't want to be associated with ArriveSCAM. Give me a break. I'm just trying to get the... Oh, okay. So Riding the Pines with a $10 super chat. This hearing has me so stressed and vexed. They want my emails and the truth about my text. So I'll answer in French as my cheeks start to clench. Oh crap, Brock's up to question me next.
Amazing. You guys have been on a roll tonight.
And Rabbit says with a $5 super chat. Oh no. We do see this again to show just how corrupt the Liberals are. And Verbal Kit with a $5 super chat. Can you ask if Kurt and Denise are still here? I think I play disc golf. Okay, well, there you go. Kurt and Denise, Verbal Kint in aisle 4 is looking for you. So please go and collect your
verbal Kint.
Your verbal child. And Sejar, 1986, member for 2 months. Getting caught is a well-known cause for a decline in one's mental health. Isn't it, though?
And was here for 3 hours, fielding very, very tough questions from all of the members of this committee, and I commend him for that. He has answered every question to the best of his ability and forthright. And
how do you know?
And not only that, but has offered to provide additional evidence and information. And again, he tried at every occasion, was forthright with his answers.
Who are they protecting?
What he didn't provide is he didn't verbatim answer questions that the Conservative MPs tried to put in his mouth. And that's what we just saw over the last number of rounds of questions, is the Conservative MPs were trying to put answers and words in the mouth of Mr. Doan. And so this motion that's being brought forward is based on the fact that Mr. Doan simply provided his own answer, in his own words, and for that reason, my colleague from the Conservative side is now taking this next step. And again, Mr. Doan has been here for 3 hours answering questions, even though, again, he has been doing this under a very difficult situation. And furthermore, I think it's important to note as well, to add to the difficulty of and how challenging this situation is, there are investigations that are currently being undertaken right now. And we know that the RCMP is active, and there's a number of other investigations that are being conducted both internally by the CBSA and a number of investigations that are being conducted by other agencies. And so again, very difficult conditions. Mr. Doan has answered every question that came before him. And again, 3 hours of testimony. And so I share my colleague's concern with this next step, and I do disagree wholeheartedly with the mischaracterization by my colleague from the Conservative Party that Mr. Doan has been avoiding answering questions here. He's been here for 3 years, or excuse me, for 3 hours answering those questions.
Mr. Sousa, please.
Yeah, listen, I just want to reaffirm that we may not necessarily appreciate the responses, but that doesn't mean that he's not forthcoming with his response. We may not like to hear and interpret the response, but he is responding, and he's making every effort to do so. I had another 5 minutes of which I was going to continue to pursue it. I say we put it to a vote, and let's continue.
Well, we can't go to a vote while we still have a voting list unless I have Mr. Brock, then Ms. Vignola, then Mr. Jouari, and Mr. Barrett. We can go to vote if everyone wants to give up their time, or otherwise we're with Mr. Brock.
So the opposition
go ahead,
parties
Mr. Brock.
are discussing.
Withdrawing.
Hmm?
I'm withdrawing.
So Brock is withdrawing. So again, just to bring everybody up to date on process, so a motion was put forward. As soon as a motion is put forward, the business at hand in committee stops. You have to deal with the motion. Once the motion is made, then MPs have the opportunity to raise their hand to be put on a speaking list so they can speak to the motion. So, Kazmierczak was first, Atwin was second, Sousa was third, Brock was fourth, and sounds like Vignola was next, and then Barrett was next after that. So you have the opportunity to withdraw your opportunity to speak to a motion, and that's what they're kind of doing now, just to try and get this over with and move to a vote.
Because I think they all know how they're going to vote.
Well, they also know how the Liberals are going to vote.
Yeah,
right? So
that too.
So you know, the whole point of speaking to the motion is trying to convince people why, right?
And the Liberals aren't going to change their minds.
Right. So, so Brock has withdrawn.
Je me retire mon...
I'm withdrawing.
Vignola withdraws.
My opinion is already, or rather, I'm also withdrawing. My opinion has already been stated by other MPs briefly. It's not because we don't like answers that it means the person has not answered. The person answered. I have pages and pages of notes. We are light years away from what we saw with other witnesses before. That's all I have to say.
So Vignola's going to vote
Mr.
against
Jouari?
it.
I'm going to withdraw.
Jouari's withdrawing.
Barrett?
I would just say a couple things very quickly with respect to colleagues' comments on Mr. Genuis's motion. Mr. Doan lied. So I don't know if he was lying then or if he's lying now, but there are several examples. I see everyone's withdrawing, so we can bring this to a vote. Let's bring it to a vote. But I read the evidence from a previous appearance by him where he said one thing, and then today he said the exact opposite thing with respect to the then saying he was in the middle of a competitive process with Treasury Board, today him saying not. Also, varying answers. He went through a range of answers on whether or not companies were associated with the presentations in the slide decks. There were no logos, there were no companies associated. Oh, they changed over time, they disappeared at some point. Well, which is the answer? We got multiple different answers. And this is a problem that we have that, pardon me?
Sure.
So,
my bad. My apologies.
So this is a problem that we have. We have come as parliamentarians to just accept that people can come before us and that they can lie and that they can refuse to answer questions and that there's no consequence. Why would anyone come here and tell the truth if there's no consequence for it? I can tell you, I was absolutely not embarrassed by the questioning of Mr. Firth when he was admonished at the bar. He was found by the House of Commons, by Canada's Parliament, to be in contempt. That wasn't a conservative smear job. That was a failure by that individual. It was a failure of his character. It was a failure of his integrity, and he was rightly admonished. The only thing that's a shame is that there weren't more severe consequences for that contempt that individual showed for Canadians who elected us to come here and to get answers for them. So when we hold people to no standard, then we get no quality from people who are looking to protect themselves instead of being accountable to the people who were sent here by Canadians. We each represent about 100,000 people, and they expect us to be honest and forthright, and the same is true for witnesses who come before committee. The witness today swore an oath, and it is black and white. He lied. He lied. So if it's uncomfortable for people to for members of the other parties, if it's uncomfortable for Liberals, I know Mr. Kusmaricek said that it's because Conservatives want to put words in Mr. Doan's mouth. Well, let's just look at his words, where he said one thing at one meeting and something different at today's meeting. So were you lying then, or are you lying now? Those are the only, that's the binary that we're left with. To say nothing of the fact that it's absolutely preposterous, his claim about how the data was corrupted on his laptop. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if people don't feel like, if members of the committee don't feel like it was an attempt to insult their intelligence, take another listen to what he offered, and we should as a committee bring someone from the computer shop down Rideau Street to come here and tell us why it's absolutely absurd. I'm not.
Wow.
You can see there's people behind him and they're like laughing because
snickering, yeah.
Because they're like
he's on point. He's right. He's totally right. He's right about all of it.
And all they have to do is bring someone from the IT group in and say, just ask them questions. Right? It would be like a 30-minute meeting.
Heck, they could just look in our comments here and realize that
right?
it's complete.
Mr.
It's a
Barrett,
total load.
can we submit our live stream chat as evidence to committee? Because we have a lot of IT experts in here that have weighed in on this. Robert says with a $2 super chat. They took the shot in saying kumbaya. Brenda Wee with a $2.79 super chat. How much money did these guys make not to speak? Yeah.
A lot.
And Diane Sylvain with a $5 super chat. And then, oh no, the parliamentary privilege came at me. My feelings were not heard when facts were needed. Oh no, those texts avoiding the bus. And Rose with a $5 super chat. Oh, sorry, here's the world's smallest violinist playing a special song just for you, Mr. Minh.
I'm not going to involve the professionals who work in IT in this building who would tell you it's absurd. Control C, Control V, you've got to be kidding me. More like Control X and delete. It's behavior unbecoming of a public servant, and it's absolutely unacceptable behavior by a witness coming before a standing committee.
Notice Barrett is talking to the camera. Normally he'd be talking to the chair. He's talking to the camera because he knows how this vote is going to go. So he's talking to Canadians.
Of a House of Parliament. Absolutely unacceptable. So does that warrant a conversation by the full House when the privileges of parliamentarians are breached? Absolutely it does. And the remedy is something that should be decided on by the House. I'm absolutely not in the least bit disappointed or ashamed, as other colleagues suggested, about how someone who lied to Canadians was simply asked to answer questions at the bar truthfully and to accept a verbal admonishment. And with respect to the quote-unquote grueling conditions today, kid gloves, 5 and 10-minute breaks, and appearing virtually with counsel, and he still couldn't even tell the truth. And he still couldn't even tell the truth. And I'm not sure what Mr. Sousa's comment was. Maybe he wanted to offer us something about his experience with deleted emails in the Ontario legislature, but we can look at court records for that. I have nothing further to add.
Wow.
And that was it.
Did they vote?
Let's see. Let me see if I can bring that up. Stand by, folks.
Don't leave me in suspense like this, man.
How
could you do that to me?
Pretty sure it was voted down, but stand by.
Well, you know, with Vignola, because they need her and the NDP for it to pass. I think if she votes, no, they need her and the NDP in order for it to go to a tie, if I'm not mistaken. And then because Kelly's conservative, he can vote it down, or like vote for the motion. But you know, Barrett made some excellent points that these guys can just come to committee and lie to Canadians, lie to taxpayers, and just get away with it because the Liberals don't want to hurt the witnesses' feelings. Give me a break.
We get to our vote now? Okay.
Who was it? Charles Sousa.
Okay, we will go to a vote. Recorded vote, I assume.
Ms. Atwin.
Opposed.
Mr. Baines.
No.
Mr. Johari.
Against.
Mr. Kusmirchuk.
No.
Mr. Sousa.
Nope.
Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
Mr. Jennings.
Yes.
Mr. Brock.
Yes.
Madame Vignola.
No.
Mr. Backrack.
No.
There you go.
There it is.
So yeas pour 3, and nays contre 7.
And then they adjourned.
Wow. Gross. You know, we have to commend Mr. Barrett for that speech at the end. Like, that was, I think he said what we were all thinking. I can't believe how that went.
There's a serious problem with people being able to just come in and lie and leave.
Yep. And you know, thank goodness for MPs like Mr. Barrett and Mr. Brock and Mr. Jennings. Like, these guys are the ones sticking up for us. And I mean, again, if you guys want to shoot any of them a quick email just to say, hey, thank you very much for standing up for us, I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Yeah, because they deal with this crap in every committee with the Liberals, and it must be like, you know, grating on you. So
It's got to feel so frustrating to have your hands tied by a corrupt government.
well, this is the thing, and I know they always get questions from Canadians, you know, why don't the Conservatives do something? This is what they can do. This is all they can do.
Yeah, because the Liberals and the NDP are functioning as a majority government.
Now, the new scandal that has reared its head, which is a number of parliamentarians have acted like this is out of a Michael Crichton novel, or maybe it's not a Tom Clancy novel is the one I'm thinking of, actively working with a foreign state to interfere with Canadian democracy. That is a whole different ball game, different universe than ArriveSCAM, and it'll be interesting to see what happens here. And the Conservatives have already called it out. You know, who are they? Lay it bare in the House of Commons. Canadians deserve to know. This is something different, and Jagmeet may not care, but the rest of the NDP caucus, they may want to, like, you know, fold the cards in and be like, oh, okay, we're not going along with this. Like, this is a lot different.
This is serious.
Folks.
Because essentially, if they don't go along with it, then the NDP will be supporting foreign interference.
And they're a party to treason.
Yeah, that's the other problem.
They're essentially an accomplice to treason.
I know that word gets tossed around a lot, but this is the definition of treason.
That's what this is. And we read it out of the criminal code in our video this morning. If you haven't seen that, go watch that, please. That is treason. There's
like,
not
it's
really
textbook
any discussion.
definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any party that supports that is a party to treason, right? So this is the real concerning one, and that's the one. If there's Liberals in there, and you know, we can speculate, that would be something else. Rabbit says with a $10 super chat, I have to admit that while I love your guys' streams, I'm not going to lie that the corruption shown so blatantly in committee degrading to all Canadians. Yeah, it is.
It is, absolutely. It's infuriating, and we should all be upset about it. And the thing is, it's going to continue as long as Canadians allow it to continue. If we turn a blind eye to this stuff, and if we don't push our MPs and say, this needs to stop, it's going to continue. It's up to Canadians. We hold the government accountable.
Now, while there may not be anything that the Conservatives can do, and there may not be anything that, you know, Canadians can do right now, aside from, you know, writing in MPs and getting involved, one thing that Fox and I are going to start looking at is where the problems are in government, in the legislation, in the process, that need changing to prevent this crap from not happening again, right? To prevent it from happening again. And what that will allow you to do as Canadians is to, when election time comes, you will be armed with the exact changes that you want to see happen to prevent this corruption and treason from happening in future governments. And you will be armed with those suggestions, specific legislation, and you can say, this is what I want to see if you want my vote.
And on the flip side, you know, if you see someone doing something awesome in committee, like we just saw, flip them a quick email. Like, the MP may not read it, but their staff will collect these emails and be like, 10 people emailed you to say that speech you gave in committee was incredible, and thank you, and great job. And I think it makes their day, but it also encourages them to keep working for Canadians, because I know these guys are frustrated and they're probably burned out. And just getting those words of encouragement can really, really help keep them going.
So it may take a little while, because Fox and I really have to do a bunch of research, but you know, we're gonna be arming you guys across the country with the information, with the specific policies and legislation that will need to be changed to prevent this stuff from happening in the future. And we're going to be calling on some of the relationships that we've made in order to, help us develop that. Because, that is what an informed voter base can really, really do. So, so hang tight, everybody, because we're going to be giving you some information on that, specific things to demand of your MP, regardless of the party that you want to see changed, if they want your vote in the next election. But we will continue to follow what's happening, keep you informed, as crappy as it may be, and we're peeling off layer and layer and layer. We have to keep digging.
Eventually we will get to the truth.
We have to keep digging. So it's important that you keep watching, keep looking into what is going on in this government.
And keep talking to people around you,
Yeah.
because so many people have no idea. And the more of us that know, the more of us that understand, and the more of us that get involved, these politicians cannot get away with this corruption forever.
So, so in other words, we got your back, Canada, and in hopefully the coming months, we'll start that series of videos. We'll put it in its own playlist, and then you'll be able to easily find it on the channel. Anyhow, that was something. But thanks everybody for sticking with us.
We have
had some good moments.
We have Canadian Commando with a $5 super chat that says, "Thanks again, NP crew. Keep it going on the road. Have a restful night and enjoy tomorrow. All secure and quiet. Over and out."
And a follow-up from Canadian Commando. Good night, everyone who stuck out to the end. Absolutely, and thank you for sticking
all
with
of
us.
you.
So take care, and look out for our new videos, and don't forget our Sunday live stream. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Have a great night. Thank you.